Chapter 228. Are these things really as magical as you say? Ning Fengji curiously grabbed the Zhuge repeating crossbow. Dusty Heart and Gu Rong were also slightly surprised. They grabbed the concealed weapons and played with them in their hand. They had never seen the concealed weapons that Ning Rongrong had mentioned before. Could ordinary people kill soul ancestors? If this was true and could be mass-produced, the safety of their 7 treasures glazed sex soul masters would be greatly guaranteed in the future. Of course, when we participated in the soul duel, we had actual combat practice. A team of soul ancestors can't block these concealed weapons at all. Ning Rongrong proudly said, "If you don't believe me, you can try it. It's very powerful. Unless a defense-type soul ancestor uses a soul skill, they can't block it at all." Shrek's 7 monsters had a strong collective sense of honor. Although it was made by Tang San, Ning Rongrong was very proud of it, as if it was her own when she explained it. "Oh!" Ning Fengji raised his eyebrows after looking at it. "It's quite exquisite. I just don't know if it's as powerful as you say." "It's very exquisite. The person who made it must be a genius." Dusty Heart and Gu Rong sighed with emotion. Of course, third brother is a super blacksmith. When he was in the academy, he often hammered and hammered. These concealed weapons aren't his best. There's something even more powerful. Ning Rongrong sighed with emotion. Then, she said, "As for its power, we'll know after testing it." As she spoke, she looked at Dusty Heart and Gu Rong. "Grandpa Jian and Grandpa Gu are so powerful. Won't you be able to test the power of these concealed weapons by testing it out? Rongrong, let me do it. Your Grandpa Jian's body isn't as strong as mine. I'm afraid he won't be able to block it." Gu Rong chuckled. Dusty Heart's martial spirit was the 7 killing sword, a martial spirit with strong attack power, but its defense was weak. Gu Rong was different. His martial spirit was the Bone Dragon, a mutated beast martial spirit. His body was much stronger than Dusty Heart's. Of course, the so-called strong and weak here were only judged by titled Dolu. No matter how weak Dusty Heart was, he was still stronger than Soul Dolu. His rank 96 soul force was no joke. You old bones should just step aside. What do I have to fear from a mere concealed weapon? Being ridiculed by Gu Rong, Dusty Heart immediately fumed with rage. The 2 old fellows were a pair of enemies in the 7 treasures glazed sect. At the same time, they were also close friends. They would always make fun of each other. "Grandpa Jian then," Ning Rongrong said with a smile. Dusty Heart quickly arrived in front of Ning Rongrong with an indifferent look on his face. A concealed weapon that could kill a soul ancestor was nothing to a titled battle pet warrior like Dolu. Their soul power alone could kill a soul king. Dusty Heart could easily block this Zhuge repeating crossbow. "Grandpa Jian, you have to be careful." With that, Ning Rongrong pulled the trigger on the silent sleeve arrow on her wrist. In an instant, 3 black shadows silently shot out in a triangular formation towards Dusty Heart's chest. Dusty Heart's eyes flashed with a sharp light. In the next second, he didn't seem to move at all, but the 3 arrows broke into 6 pieces and fell to the ground. Sword Aura. Dusty Heart had used this formless sword aura just now, which was why he was able to slice the arrows apart in an instant. However, this wasn't the end. Ning Rongrong raised her left hand, and the Zhuge repeating crossbow appeared in her hand. She then pulled the trigger. Following that, she waved her right hand, and a cloud of poison mist flew towards Dusty Heart's face. This scene caused Ning Fengji's eyes to light up. Not to mention the power of the concealed weapon, Ning Rongrong's reaction and speed made Ning Fengji very surprised. This girl was definitely a soul exalt, otherwise she wouldn't be so fast. She went from rank 26 to a soul exalt in half a year. This Shrek Academy had some skill. Just as he was thinking about this, the Zhuge repeating crossbow shot out 16 short arrows, and the cloud of poison mist flew towards Dusty Heart. However, the latter didn't panic at all. He waved his right hand, and the poison mist scattered into the sky. The 16 short arrows were all cut in half and fell to the ground. Grandpa Jian is so strong, Ning Rongrong said with a smile. She actually had a few more concealed weapons on her body, but it was just a test. She just had to display the characteristics of each weapon. Dusty Heart's face was full of smiles. He looked at Gu Rong with a spirited expression as if to say, "Did you hear that? Rongrong praised me for being strong." "She didn't praise you, old man." Gu Rong couldn't say anything, and could only stare blankly. At this moment, Dusty Heart said with a smile, "This concealed weapon's power is not bad. The 3 hidden arrows at the beginning should be able to cause great damage to a soul exalt. The crossbow at the end should be a little stronger. It should be just as Rongrong said." Ning Fengji's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly asked, "Rongrong, who did you say made these concealed weapons?" "His name is Tang San. He's the 3rd brother of Shrek's 7 monsters," Ning Rongrong hurriedly said. Tang San? Ning Fengji had never heard of this name before. He had only heard of someone called Lin Feng from Dusty Heart. However, he still smiled and said, "What a good name. He must be a genius." "It's him." Dusty Heart smiled and said, "I remember that kid. He's the one with the bright eyes. However, I was only paying attention to Lin Feng at the time." Dusty Heart looked at Ning Rongrong and teased, "Rongrong, what happened between you and Lin Feng? Did you succeed? Now there's a 3rd brother. Who will you choose between the 2 of them?" Ning Rongrong's face turned red and she hurriedly said, "Grandpa Jian, you're talking nonsense again. I said last time that there's nothing between me and Feng Go. 3rd brother already has someone in his heart." For some reason, Ning Rongrong thought back to the time when she received the lovesick heart sausage's approval. She clearly liked Lin Feng so much, so why did that immortal herb only sway slightly? And Zhu Zhuqing and Xiao Wu were both stronger than her? Seeing Ning Rongrong's dazed eyes, Ning Fengji didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he smiled and said, "Rongrong, didn't you say there was a big surprise? Hurry up and show us what the big surprise is." In fact, these concealed weapons were already a big surprise. Since Ning Rongrong had brought them back to show them, it meant that they could be mass-produced. Otherwise, she wouldn't have brought them back. "Grandpa Jian, what rank am I now?" Ning Rongrong asked with a smile. Dusty Heart narrowed his eyes and covered Ning Rongrong with his soul power. "Soon," he exclaimed, "Rongrong is rank 38? A Soul Master's soul power rank was something that not even a titled battle pet warrior like Doluo would be able to tell if he didn't use his senses. No one had checked Ning Rongrong's rank before, so it was only now that they realized that Ning Rongrong was rank 38. What? How is that possible? 12 ranks in half a year. Ning Fengji and Gu Rong were stunned. Yes, I was rank 37, but after stabilizing my soul power a few days ago, I broke through to rank 38. Ning Rongrong smiled. Ning Rongrong was very satisfied to see the expressions on their faces. Chapter 229. In about 8 months, Ning Rongrong's soul power had increased by 12 rank. After hearing this news, Ning Fengji and the others weren't pleasantly surprised, but frightened. It was impossible to increase by 12 ranks in such a short period of time, unless they used some kind of evil method, the kind that exhausted one's potential. The 3 of them looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. At the same time, their eyes flashed with a cold light. If it was really as they thought, and the Shrek Academy used this kind of method on Ning Rongrong, it was cutting off her future. Perhaps she could increase by a lot in a short period of time, but after that, her progress would be extremely slow. Perhaps she would only be able to become a Soul Emperor for the rest of her life. The gap between a Soul Sage and a Soul Emperor was too big, and Ning Fengji couldn't accept this. However, this was only a guess for now. Ning Fengji said seriously, "Rongrong, tell me in detail, how did you increase your soul power to such a high rank?" Dusty Heart also said, "Yes, Rong, you increased your strength so quickly, don't use some kind of evil method." Ning Rong smiled mysteriously and said, "What kind of evil method is it? It's an immortal herb with no side effects, and it can strengthen one's foundation. Half a month ago, I was only rank 28, but after eating this immortal herb, I directly reached rank 30. After absorbing the soul ring, I broke through to rank 37, then stabilized my soul power, and broke through to rank 38 a few days ago. Let me tell you, this immortal herb has increased my cultivation speed by a lot. I estimate that I can reach rank 40 in at most 3 months, or even less." This! Ning Fengji and the others were stunned. When they heard the first few sentences, they doubted the authenticity of this immortal herb, but in the last few sentences, Ning Rong said that she could reach rank 40 in at most 3 months. If this was true, then this wasn't some kind of evil method. It was already very impressive for an evil method to increase one's soul power by so many ranks in one go. Even an evil method wouldn't be able to do it so quickly. Seeing that everyone was in a daze, Ning Rong suddenly summoned her martial soul. "Look carefully, how many floors does my pagoda have?" Dusty Heart's eyes were sharp, and he immediately saw Ning Rong's martial soul. He couldn't help but exclaim, 9 levels and 9 colors. It's the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. What? 9 treasures glazed pagoda? Ning Fengji exclaimed. On the other hand, Gu Rong, who was standing at the side, was more composed. However, she was still extremely shocked. It was important to know that the 7 treasures glazed pagoda was too powerful, and it had a natural flaw. It could only obtain 7 soul rings, and it would never be able to break through to become a soul dolua. But according to legend, if a soul cultivator had a special opportunity, there was still a chance for the 7 treasures glazed pagoda to evolve into the 9 treasures glazed pagoda. Such a soul master would have a solid foundation and strong aptitude. Once he reached the level of a titled dolua, he would be able to become a titled soul master. He would even have the title of the god of support. With a set of skills, he could even increase a person's strength by several times. After seeing this scene, Ning Fengji no longer had to worry about Ning Rong. The 9 treasures glazed pagoda represented that Ning Rong's aptitude and martial soul had been strengthened. This couldn't be some kind of evil method. Ning Fengji sighed with emotion as he relaxed. The 9 treasures glazed pagoda. This was his lifelong dream. He didn't expect it to be realized by his daughter. It was too sudden. How is it? Do you believe me now? Ning Rong put away the pagoda with a proud expression. The reason why Ning Rong came back was because she wanted to tell her father about the hidden weapon. This was a huge matter that concerned the sect. On the other hand, she wanted her elders to be proud of her, just like a child. It was just like in her previous life, when she got 100 points in the exam, she would go home and throw the paper to her parents. After that, her parents would praise her. That sense of accomplishment was simply bursting. I believe you, of course I believe you. My little princess has become a genius. She's the hope of the sect. Ning Fengji couldn't suppress the smile on his face. After that, he asked, "Don't tell me that this immortal herb was also brought back by your third brother? And he specially gave it to you? This kind of genius is a perfect match for you. Tomorrow, we have to make a trip to the Shrek Academy and meet your third brother." No. This immortal herb was brought back by Feng Go and third brother. They gave it to Shrek's 7 monsters and the teachers. Also, third brother already has Xiao Wu. Ning Rong hurriedly said. You mean this Feng Go doesn't have one yet? Ning Fengji laughed heartily and said, Then tomorrow, I'll help you take a good look at this Lin Feng. He was able to block Condoluo's kick. Not only was his strength outstanding, but he was also able to share such a great opportunity with his classmates and teachers. With this kind of breadth of mind, he would definitely be an excellent son-in-law. Actually, Ning Fengji still had some doubts in his heart. For example, did Lin Feng have more of this immortal herb? Also, would Tang San sell the stronger hidden weapons in his hands? However, these things couldn't be asked from Ning Rongrong. He decided that tomorrow, he would bring Dusty Heart to the Shrek Academy to pay a visit. Father, Feng Go is often outside. We can't find him in the academy. He usually only comes back once a week, Ning Rongrong said. It's fine. At most, we'll just wait a few days. Ning Fengji was now extremely interested in this Lin Feng. With Bone Delua guarding the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, he and Dusty Heart could go to Heaven Do City for a few days. It wouldn't be a problem. Not to mention the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, Ning Fengji said that he would come. At this moment, in the Crown Prince's palace. Originally, Xue Qinghe was prepared to have some high-profile interactions with the Shrek Academy in the city. However, man proposes, God disposes. A few days ago, when he was meditating, he sensed that he might break through to rank 70, so he hurriedly went into seclusion to cultivate. Today, he had broken through to rank 70. At this time, he naturally had to put aside the Shrek Academy matter. Going to the setting sun forest to hunt soul beasts was the most important thing. With that thought, he immediately gathered the 3 spirit Dolua in the Martial Spirit Hall and headed to the setting sun forest. The night passed quietly. The next day, Ning Fengji and the others were already on their way to Heaven Do City. At the Icefire Yin Yang Well, Lin Feng woke up from the hot spring. After casually eating a few immortal herbs, he lay back down in the hot spring. His avatar, Thanos, went to find Dugu Bo directly. After a day of meditation, Dugu Bo's strength had completely stabilized. He was now a true rank 95 titled Dolu. According to his own estimates, he would be able to break through to rank 96 in 2 years. One had to know that after a titled Dolu reached rank 95, every increase in rank was no longer as simple as relying on soul power cultivation. It mainly depended on one's comprehension. Soul power was only supplementary. For example, Dusty Heart's soul power might have reached rank 96 in a few years. However, due to insufficient comprehension, it took him more than 10 years to reach rank 96. Chapter 230. Many people were stuck at the threshold of rank 95. Wasn't it the same for Chrysanthemum Dolua, Ghost Dolua and Bone Dolua? Their soul power had clearly reached the peak of rank 95, but they couldn't break through to rank 96. Dugu Bo felt that he could break through to rank 96 in 2 years. It seemed that the medicinal power had helped him a lot. Not only in terms of soul power, but also in terms of his understanding of poison. Because of the deepening of his understanding, he had the possibility of breaking through to rank 96. However, Lin Feng didn't care about these things. What he cared about was the level of his experience baby. When Dugu Bo was rank 91 yesterday, the system gave him 5 million experience points. Now that he was rank 95, the increase in his strength was too great. His experience points should increase by a lot. With this kind of expectation, Lin Feng and Dugu Bo fought. At rank 95, Dugu Bo was much stronger than before, especially his martial soul true body. Whether it was defense, strength, or speed, all of them had been greatly improved. For a moment, he was actually able to exchange blows with Lin Feng's avatar. Not bad, you've improved. Lin Feng expressed his approval of Dugu Bo's strength. It's all thanks to you, sir, Dugu Bo hurriedly said. He clearly knew his own strength. It was impossible for him to win against Lin Feng. His opponent's strength was too terrifying. He was able to exchange blows with Lin Feng because Lin Feng was holding back. Dugu Bo remembered very clearly that Lin Feng had a soul skill that could summon avatars. However, he hadn't used this skill even once. It was enough to show that he hadn't used his full strength at all. The stronger one was, the bigger the commotion of the battle. However, with the poison array blocking, ordinary people wouldn't be able to sense the soul power fluctuations inside. Coincidentally, not far from the poison array, Xueqinghe happened to be returning from the setting sun forest. Yesterday their luck was pretty good. After half a day they found a suitable soul beast. Then, after waiting for half the night, he hunted down this 50,000-year dark night elf, with the help of the 3 soul dolu. After absorbing the soul ring, they prepared to return to Heaven Do City. However, they didn't walk for long before they suddenly sensed an enormous soul power fluctuation. "Your Highness, there should be a titled battle pet warrior as powerful as Dolua over there," someone said. Xueqinghe's eyes flickered for a moment before he said, "Call Yingluan over. I want to take a look at the situation." Xueqinghe believed that this fluctuation of soul power could not have come from a low-level titled battle pet warrior like Dolu. Xueqinghe believed that this soul power was similar to that of Ghost Dolua and Chrysanthemum Dolu. Xueqinghe had the angel martial soul and was a soul sage. However, he could unleash strength on par with Soul Dolua through his soul bones and soul skills. However, with just the 4 souls Dolua, if they were to encounter such an expert in the past, it would not be safe. As for Yingluan, although he wasn't strong in a head-on battle, his martial soul was special, and his concealment, assassination, and escape were all top-notch. After he came over, Xueqinghe asked him to bring him to investigate. This way they wouldn't be discovered. Furthermore, these 2 people were fighting, so they definitely weren't on the same side. There were 4 soul masters with the same combat strength as Soul Dolua and 1 titled battle pet warrior. Even if they were discovered, it wouldn't be a big problem. There was no need to be afraid at all. "Yes, Your Highness." After one of the Soul Dolua received the order, he immediately went to Heaven Do City to call Yingluan. Xueqinghe and the other 2 Soul Dolua waited very cautiously. They didn't make any moves that would lead to their death. Those who were able to work as spies in Heaven Do City wouldn't have lived for so long if they were stupid. Lin Feng was completely unaware of this. At this moment, he was getting more and more excited as he fought with Dugubo. In fact, Dugubo couldn't unleash his full strength when fighting with Lin Feng because his strongest attack was poison. Lin Feng happened to counter his poison, so it was very difficult for him. He could only fight Lin Feng head-on. Even so, Dugubo was much more resilient than before. In the past, the battle would usually last about 10 minutes. Now, Lin Feng was fighting with gusto. They had been fighting for half an hour, and he could still hold on. However, Dugubo was at his limit. He suddenly shouted, "Sir, I can't take it anymore." As soon as he finished speaking, Dugubo quickly retreated and reverted to his true form. His martial soul had become stronger, and so had his strength. However, using his martial soul true form consumed much more soul power than before. After half an hour, his soul power was almost completely depleted. He had no choice but to stop. Lin Feng didn't say anything. He just silently stopped. At this moment, the system's notification sounded. Ding! After a long battle, the host has defeated the level 95 titled Battle Pet Warrior, Dugubo. Your combat experience has increased. You have received 215,27548 experience points. Slightly more than 20 million experience points. Not bad at all. It was more or less what Lin Feng had expected. If it had been a newbie, it would have been even more. After all, Dugubo was an experienced baby that he had farmed for so long. It was normal for him to lose some experience points. Just as Lin Feng was rejoicing, Dugubo suddenly looked to the left and said in surprise, "Sir, it seems like someone has barged in." Dugubo was a little surprised. That feeling was very weak, and he felt like it was an illusion. However, he still said it. Fortunately, Dugubo's strength had increased greatly, allowing him to sense the situation through the poison array. Otherwise, with his previous strength, he would not have been able to sense it at all. "Don't worry about it." Lin Feng smiled and shook his head. He didn't care at all. Oh! Dugubo was confused, but he didn't say anything. He meditated on the spot to recover his soul power. In reality, Lin Feng's true form had already come out of the ice-fire yin-yang well. He was sneaking his way over. The principle of Dugu Bo's poison array was connected to his soul power. Even he could only sense a trace of the situation. Clearly, the other party wasn't weak. It should be a big fish. At this time, Yingluan Doluo had just brought Xue Qinghe through the poison array. He didn't think too much about it. He was very confident in his concealment skills and rushed over to Dugu Bo's side. The battle over there had stopped. It seemed that the victor had been decided. He wanted to see if he could get some benefits from it, but at the same time, Yingluan was still a little confused. That poison array felt like Dugu Bo's work. Who else could set up such a huge poison array apart from him? However, the two waves of soul power undulations were very strong, and even he was secretly shocked. It couldn't be Dugu Bo fighting with someone else. Could it be that there was a powerful titled Doluo living in seclusion in the setting sun forest? And then he was found by an enemy? Just as he was thinking about this, Yingluan brought Xue Qinghe to a large tree. Through the cracks, the two of them could see the traces of a battle not far away. There was a guy in white clothes and a white mask on his face in the open space. And why was he looking at the two of them? Just as they were wondering, a faint voice came from behind them. "I've caught you." Chapter 231. A faint shout caused Xue Qinghe and Yingluan's hair to stand on end. As they summoned their martial souls, they also revealed their soul rings. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. Xue Qinghe had 7 soul rings. With the angel martial soul attached to his body, he floated in the air with 4 wings spread out behind his back. He looked abnormally holy. The angel martial soul was extremely terrifying. It was one of the strongest martial souls among the top-grade martial souls and was only a step away from God rank. It was similar to the blue lightning tyrant dragon. As one's strength increased, their martial soul would change. The angel martial soul's change was to increase the number of wings on its back. As a soul sage, Xue Qinghe had 4 wings on his back and was extremely powerful. Beside him, Yingluan had 9 soul rings. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 black. His martial soul was a round wheel that existed between illusion and reality. Darkness and darkness intertwined, appearing very strange. The reason why the two of them had such a big reaction was mainly because Lin Feng's shout was too close to them. It sounded like it was right next to their ears. Under such circumstances, if they were a step slower, and the other party had evil intentions and was strong enough, the two of them might very well die. In fact, the two of them were overthinking it. It was too difficult for Lin Feng to assassinate titled Dolu. The reason why he could follow the two of them without being discovered was mainly because he used the 1,000 trickery ruler to conceal his aura. Under such circumstances, he could use some soul skills with weak soul power fluctuations. However, he couldn't use those powerful soul skills secretly. Titled Doluo would be able to detect and react the moment the soul power fluctuations appeared. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't assassinate titled Doluo at the moment. But why assassinate? He could just do it openly. One was a soul sage and the other was a titled Dolu. This titled Doluo didn't seem to be very strong. This guy definitely couldn't escape today. These two guys were quite cautious. They actually copied him and wore a mask. However, this was futile. Lin Feng knew who this guy was just by looking at the angel martial soul, Qian Renxue. As for the other titled battle pet warrior, Doluo, who was holding a wheel, Lin Feng didn't know him. He guessed that he was an elder of the martial spirit palace who didn't appear in the original work. After all, the martial spirit palace was a force that could be found all over the continent. There were many powerful warriors hiding in the dark. It would be a piece of cake for the martial spirit palace to hide some titled battle pet warriors. Lin Feng's original plan was to capture the two of them and use Doluo as an experienced baby while he killed the Soul Sage. However, this Soul Sage was Qian Rinxue, and the titled Doluo was from the Martial Spirit Hall. This made things a little difficult. If the two of them were together, it would have a huge impact on the Heaven Do Empire. The Heaven Do imperial family would go crazy, and the Martial Spirit Hall would also take action. Especially the Martial Spirit Palace. Qian Rinxue was the granddaughter of the Thousand Dao Flow. If something happened to Qian Rinxue, this kind of old fellow would very likely come out. That was the peerless level 99 Doluo, a demigod existence. Lin Feng had no other choice but to run. It was his bad luck to meet the two of them. He couldn't touch them, and it wasn't appropriate to capture them. If he let them go, there would be a big problem. It was uncomfortable. However, he couldn't care less. He had to capture them first. With that thought, Lin Feng was ready to make a move. However, Yingluan suddenly shouted, "Wait! We're just passing by. We don't mean any harm." As he shouted, Yingluan's 8th soul skill was ready to be used. As long as Lin Feng made a move, he would immediately take Xueqinghe away. Xueqinghe, who was at the side, was shocked. He looked behind and then looked in front. Why were the two of them wearing the same mask? Both of them were Thanos? And both of them were equally unfathomable. Could it be that his previous guess was wrong? Both father and son were titled Doluo? Or that Black Tiger Afu was his great-grandson? Were they Thanos's grandfather and father? Although Xueqinghe felt that the guess in his heart was outrageous, he could only make such a guess. Otherwise, they were the same person. Doluo had risen from a Soul Emperor to a titled Doluo in a short 6 years. Furthermore, he had an avatar of the same strength. Wasn't this even more outrageous? No harm? Haha. With a chuckle, Lin Feng's avatar and main body rushed forward at the same time. Dugu Bo, who was behind the avatar, woke up from his meditation. He recognized the identity of the newcomer, Yingluan Doluo from the Martial Soul Hall. As for the other Soul Sage, he didn't know, but he guessed that he was also from the Martial Soul Hall. Speaking of which, he and Yingluan could be considered acquaintances. However, they were only acquaintances. This time, he actually dared to spy on them. He was courting death. Thinking of this, he also followed and blocked the escape route of the two. At the same time, after seeing Lin Feng use the avatar skill, he also understood. Sure enough, Lin Feng didn't use his full strength when fighting with him. He only used his full strength when facing the enemy. "Your Majesty Thanos, I hope we can talk," Xueqinghe hurriedly said. He originally thought that Lin Feng would stop after being called out. However, this was only a matter of course. Lin Feng didn't stop at all. The 1,000 trickery ruler instantly turned into 2 large nets that enveloped the two. At the same time, Lin Feng and his avatar first released dozens of shadow bindings, then used the power of lightning to strike the two. He controlled his strength very well. The avatar and main body's targets were different, so the size of the lightning was also different. It was just enough to paralyze and stun people without killing them. Yingluan and Xueqinghe both felt the danger of life and death. Yingluan didn't hesitate anymore. First, he released his 7th soul ring, and the martial soul in his hand expanded greatly. Then, before Lin Feng's attack arrived, his 8th soul ring lit up. A dark fog spread out from Yingluan's body and enveloped Xueqinghe. The two turned into shadows, easily dodging these attacks, and ran outside. "Sir, Yingluan's 8th soul skill is very strange. He can enter a special state where his speed is very fast. Ordinary attacks are useless against him," Dugu Bo reminded from the side. Hearing this, Lin Feng smiled without the slightest trace of worry. What a coincidence, he also knew this soul skill. This guy's soul skill was similar to his nether body, but the effect was much weaker. As for why he could bring someone along, it shouldn't be the effect of the soul skill itself, but related to Ying Luan's martial soul. That black fog was the power of his martial soul. Ying Luan's 8th soul skill could increase his speed, but he was still a little lacking in front of Lin Feng. 5th soul skill, nether body. Lin Feng also turned into a shadow and entered the gap between nothingness and reality. Then, under Ying Luan's horrified gaze, Lin Feng quickly caught up and grabbed at the two of them. How is this possible? Ying Luan's face was full of disbelief. His 7th soul skill was extremely special. Ever since he obtained it, this was the first time he was caught by someone. Chapter 232. Under a large tree, Xueqinghe and Ying Luan were trapped like dumplings and placed there casually. Earlier, Ying Luan didn't expect Lin Feng to have a soul skill similar to his, so he ran forward with Xueqinghe. When Lin Feng caught up, it was too late for him to react. Lin Feng took advantage of this opportunity to attack. He placed his hands on the two of them, and his soul power surged wildly. Endless spider silk spread out from his palms, instantly wrapping the two of them tightly. The spider silk contained a large amount of paralyzing poison, and the two of them quickly fainted. At the same time, about 20% of their strength was temporarily extracted by Lin Feng. This was only a variant of Lin Feng's 2nd soul skill. Through extremely strong soul power control, Lin Feng could increase the original strength of a soul skill. At the same time, he could change some of its manifestations without changing its essence. In fact, there was a more standard term for this on the Dolua continent: self-created soul skills. His method of using his hands to release the binding spiderweb was a self-created soul skill. The essence of self-created soul skills was to change the soul power undulations of one's own soul skill to create a brand new soul skill. However, these soul skills had to be compatible with one's own martial soul or soul skill. Only then would they have an extremely strong effect. Otherwise, the power would be extremely weak or even impossible to use. For example, Tang San's 4th soul skill, Blue-Silver Cage. If Xiao Wu knew the operating principle of this soul skill, would she be able to use it? Of course not. Even if she could use it, its power would be pitifully weak, not even comparable to a soul scholar's attack. Furthermore, it would consume a lot of soul power. However, if a soul master with the Ghost King Vine or the Sky Azure Vine martial soul knew and learned it, the meaning would be different. They would be able to use their own soul power. Although they wouldn't have soul rings, they would be able to unleash about 30% of their strength due to their similar martial souls. If they had similar martial souls and similar soul skills, they might be able to unleash half of their strength. He didn't have such a soul skill, but he was able to borrow the operating principles of other people's soul skills to create a soul skill that suited his martial soul. This was already quite good. However, Lin Feng was different. He had the 1,000 trickery ruler, which allowed him to perfectly imitate other people's martial souls. As long as he grasped the principles behind their soul skills, he could perfectly imitate other people's strength. Of course, this was only limited to those whose soul power was lower than his clones. Currently, Lin Feng could create avatars up to rank 79. This way, as long as it was a soul master below Soul Dolua's level, he could imitate them after studying the principles behind their soul skills and martial souls. However, a skill like imitation was useless against Lin Feng's strength. It was far inferior to his own soul skills, and could only be used to oppress noobs. If he wanted to increase his strength, he could only create soul skills according to his martial soul and soul rings, just like Tang Hao's Great Summer Hammer and Disorder's Splitting Wind Hammer technique. There were still many things that could be learned on the Dolua continent. Lin Feng was able to possess a fighting strength around rank 97 with rank 82 soul power. Although 80% of the reason was because his martial soul was too strong and his soul rings were too old, the other 20% was because of the knowledge he had learned about martial souls, soul power control, soul skill fluctuations, and so on. Legend had it that Poseidon, the god of the sea, had united the oceans of the Doloa continent to become a god. Lin Feng felt that if he could create a divine skill that only gods could use, he could also become a god. This was a path to becoming a god, and it was a completely new path. Perhaps there were already people on the Doloa continent who had begun to study this, but it was probably just casual research. There was no systematic research at all. Lin Feng didn't think too much about this. Currently, he was still thinking about how to deal with these two guys. After paralyzing these two people just now, the experience points given by the Soul Sage were negligible, only around 100,000. However, this rank 93 Shadow Wheel gave him 18 million experience points. With so much experience points and a big experience baby, it was simply too tempting. Now that Lin Feng had caught him, he naturally didn't want to let him go. Currently, there were only a few people that Lin Feng was afraid of in the Martial Spirit Hall. Demigod Qian Daolu, Pope Bibi Dong, and a few of the higher-ranked consecrators. If he wanted to lure these people out, he would probably have to make a move on Xueqinghe and ruin the Martial Spirit Hall's plan. Xiao Ying's Shadow Wheel Doloa, a guy who didn't even appear in the original work, probably wasn't too important. It would be good to catch him and farm experience for a period of time. It would be even better if he lured Ghost Doloa and Chrysanthemum Doloa from the Martial Spirit Hall to investigate. Wouldn't it be great to catch all three of them to farm experience? If he caught 3 titled Doloa at once, it would definitely be a big deal. Even the Pope would be alarmed. At this time, Lin Feng would take advantage of the time difference. He would only farm experience for a few days before releasing the 3, and Thanos would disappear for a period of time. If he did this a few times, wouldn't his experience points shoot up like a rocket? Thinking of this, Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. At this time, Dugubo said, "Sir, this titled Doloa's code name is Inglun. He's a secret guard of the Martial Spirit Hall in the Heaven Do Martial Spirit Hall. As for the other one, I don't know, but his martial spirit is very powerful. He should be an important person in the Martial Spirit Hall." Lin Feng didn't say anything. After pondering for a while, he dissolved the spider webs on the 2, and then grabbed Xueqinghe. "Keep an eye on this guy." With that, Lin Feng grabbed Xueqinghe and walked outside. At this time, it was Lin Feng's avatars that were moving around. His main body had already returned to the Icefire Yin Yang well to soak in the hot spring. Soaking in the hot spring would give experience points every second. Although it wasn't much, it was still more than 1 million in a day. While soaking in the hot spring and eating the immortal herbs, Lin Feng could endure it for the sake of the experience points. At the edge of the poison array, Lin Feng woke Xueqinghe up and threw him on the ground. He didn't even take off his mask. Xueqinghe woke up instantly from the pain. He quickly released his martial spirit and soul rings, then floated in the air and looked at Lin Feng vigilantly. "Why didn't you kill me?" Xueqinghe's voice was cold and puzzled. The last thing he remembered was Lin Feng catching up to him and Yingluan, then he lost consciousness. Now that he woke up, Yingluan was gone. Only he and Lin Feng were at the edge of the poison array. It was obvious that Yingluan had lost and might have even been killed. But why wasn't he dead? Also, the mask on his face didn't show any signs of being taken off. Why was that? He was puzzled. "I've already detained your friend. If you want to save him, call for help." Lin Feng didn't answer the question. Instead, he said this. After that, he didn't care about Xueqinghe anymore and turned to leave. Chapter 233. Lin Feng had nothing to say to Qianrenxue, who was pretending to be Xueqinghe. Although Lin Feng was surprised that Xueqinghe went to the Heaven Do Academy, it didn't pique his curiosity. Since Qianrenxue was Bibi Dong's daughter, she should be able to mobilize Ghost Doloa and Chrysanthemum Dolu. Lin Feng believed that he could run away as long as the Thousand Daos school didn't come in person. Thinking about how his experience points would skyrocket, Lin Feng's heart was filled with joy. Meanwhile, at the edge of the poison array, Xue Qinghe was puzzled. Just like how Dugubo didn't understand why Lin Feng would pick fights with him every day, Xue Qinghe had no idea what Lin Feng's intentions were. He didn't want money or treasures. He just said that he was going to save Yingluan. Wasn't he an idiot? Why didn't he even take off his mask? Also, when did Dugubo become so powerful? Why did he get involved with Thanos again? There were also the two Thanos and the fight. All these questions lingered in Xue Qinghe's mind. There was only one thing on his mind, which was to find Thanos and ask him about it. But he suddenly stopped after taking 2 steps, because he sensed that the 3 Soul Dolois who were waiting outside were running over. They must have been attracted by him when he summoned his martial soul at the edge of the poison formation. Xue Qinghe didn't go in. Instead, he walked out of the poison formation. "Your Highness!" The 3 Soul Kings greeted Xue Qinghe with respect. They didn't see Yingluan. The older one asked, "Your Highness, why didn't Elder Yingluan come out?" Xue Qinghe's eyes flickered. He found something and went to investigate. "He won't be back for a while. There's another titled Dolois in there. It's very dangerous. Let's leave." To put it nicely, Yingluan Dolois was there to protect Xue Qinghe. In fact, they were here to monitor him to prevent him from having disloyalty or making mistakes, which would affect the plan of the Martial Spirit Palace. All these years, Xue Qinghe had been constantly monitored, and he had long grown tired of it. Otherwise, he would not have thought of secretly taking Thanos as his subordinate. Now that Yingluan had been captured, it was actually a good thing. Xue Qinghe decided to keep this news a secret for now. On one hand, Lin Feng's behavior was strange. Asking him to bring people to save Yingluan felt too foolish. It might be a trap. On the other hand, without Shadow Wheel's surveillance, he could still develop in secret for a period of time and recruit a few powerful soul masters. Right, that black tiger Ah Fu. Xue Qinghe decided to make a trip to the Shrek Academy right away. He had to ask this guy what his relationship with Thanos was. In the past, Xue Qinghe had wanted to take it slow and slowly rope them in. However, after the incident just now, Xue Qinghe had walked on the line between life and death. He had already come to a realization. Speaking of which, this was the first time Xue Qinghe had experienced such a close call. He looked very calm on the surface, but he was actually very nervous. This time, he could not wait any longer. He had to go to the Shrek Academy as soon as he returned to Heaven Do City. Yes. The 3 of them did not suspect anything and immediately escorted Xue Qinghe back to Heaven Do City. As for Lin Feng, after returning, he immediately awakened Yingluan. He didn't interrogate him. He simply told Yingluan not to run around and to stay here. Of course, this guy didn't listen and wanted to run away. However, Lin Feng was not worried at all. He had Dugubo keep an eye on him. Dugubo's method of keeping an eye on someone was very simple. He directly poisoned him, and it was a very serious poison. It was very difficult to poison a titled Dolois to death in a battle. The only way to do so was to fight to the death. However, Yingluan was very weak at the moment, and he was under someone's control, so Dugubo easily planted a lethal poison in his body. The principle of this poison was very simple. As long as he was within a certain range of Dugubo, it would automatically detonate. If he didn't receive treatment within half a minute, Yingluan would be dead for sure. Under such circumstances, Yingluan didn't dare to run. He could only stay here and be an experience baby. Dugubo was also very happy. He was originally here alone, but now that he had someone to accompany him, it felt pretty good. In fact, Dugubo was still quite free. Lin Feng didn't restrict him, but he had nothing to do, so he usually just stayed here. However, in the near future, Dugubo might take his granddaughter to hunt a soul beast. When that time came, Yingluan would have the opportunity to go out and get some fresh air. Shrek Academy's main entrance. Ning Fengji, Dusty Heart, and Ning Rongrong stood there. Looking at the new signboard, Ning Fengji sighed with emotion. Not bad. The Shrek Academy has changed to a new campus. It looks much more imposing. Of course, our Shrek Academy's goal is to become the champion of the continent's elite academy tournament. Once we become the champion, our academy will be renovated, Ning Rongrong said proudly. Once they became the champion, their Shrek Academy would become very rich. They would receive innumerable financial support from the nobles. If your Shrek's 7 monsters are really as strong as you say, then your chances of becoming the champion are very high. Ning Fengji nodded. The champions of the previous tournaments were usually top-notch soul ancestors. Sometimes 1 or 2 soul kings would pop out. With Tang San's talent, they would definitely be soul ancestors when the tournament started. When the time came, they would grow even further in the tournament, and definitely have the qualifications to become the champion. It was really unimaginable. The average age of this group of people was only 13. When the finals came, they would probably only be 14. This was simply a miracle. At this moment, Ning Fengji couldn't wait to see this group of geniuses. Especially Tang San and Lin Feng. Just like that, Ning Rongrong guided the 3 of them to the Shrek Academy's field. A teacher who was walking on the road noticed the situation and immediately went to report it to the dean. At this moment, Ning Rongrong discovered Zhu Zhuqing running on the field. Take Chi, did Feng Gu punish you again? You're not done yet? She first greeted him happily, then asked doubtfully. No, I ran on my own. Zhu Zhuqing was very happy to see Ning Rongrong return. You're really hard-working, Ning Rongrong praised. At this moment, Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart walked over while chatting. Dusty Heart saw Zhu Zhuqing's strength and approximate age. He even sensed a little of his top-notch martial soul's aura. This was what titled Dolua could see when he carefully examined a low-ranked soul master. After he told Ning Fengji, he couldn't help but sigh. She's really a genius. This girl is even younger than Rongrong. I didn't expect her soul power to reach rank 38. It's really incredible. Yeah. Ning Fengji also sighed. The main thing was that this level of genius was considered normal among the 7 of them. The 3 siblings, Tang San, Xiao Wu, and Lin Feng, were only half a year older than her, but they were already soul ancestors. How terrifying! Chapter 234. At this moment, Ning Fengji couldn't wait to bring all these people into the 7 Treasures glazed sect. This time, he came here with such thoughts. Even if he couldn't win them over for the time being, he wanted to show the good side of the 7 Treasures glazed sect and extend an olive branch to them. Just as Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing were chatting, Flanders and Zhao Wuji came out. The Grandmaster had been busy for the past few days and ignored everyone. After finishing the things yesterday, he was dragged out to play by Lu Erlong early in the morning. At this time, only Flanders and Zhao Wuji were in charge of the school. After seeing Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart, the 2's faces changed and they immediately ran over. Greetings, Sect Master Ning and His Highness Dusty Heart. The 2 cupped their hands respectfully. The 7 Treasures glazed sect had 2 titled Doluo, and with Ning Fengji's support ability, it could be regarded as 4 titled Dolu. With the Clear Sky sect in seclusion, it was not an exaggeration to say that this kind of force was the #1 sect in the world. Flanders gave the 2 enough respect. Dean Flanders, to be able to cultivate such genius students, your teaching ability is really amazing, Ning Fengji said with a smile. Dusty Heart nodded slightly to the side, which could be considered as a greeting. An expert should have the demeanor of an expert. This time, Dusty Heart came here just to be a background character and not speak if he could. Sect Master Ning is overpraising. This is not my credit. This group of monsters is very powerful, and with the Grandmaster's teaching, they are so outstanding. Flanders still had a clear idea in his heart. Speaking of the Grandmaster, why don't I see him? Ning Fengji came here this time. In addition to Lin Feng and Tang San, the one he wanted to see the most was the Grandmaster. He's not in the school for the time being. Flanders stretched out his hand. It's not convenient to be in the field. The two of you, please come here. Let's go to the private room to talk. Of course, the academy had a special reception hall. At this moment, Flanders led the two of them to the reception hall. On the field, Ning Rongrong knew the purpose of her father's visit. She needed to get Tang San and the others to go to the living room together. After Lin Feng announced the change in the teaching schedule yesterday, from today onwards, the mornings would be free time, and the afternoons and evenings would be used for cultivation. After that, they would take a few days out of the week for actual combat training. Although it was free time in the morning, none of them went out to play or slack off. Zhu Zhuqing was jogging while the others were either training or sparring. In any case, they were constantly strengthening themselves, and none of them slacked off. Lin Feng had told them that when you were not working hard, others were working hard. When real danger came, the enemy would not show mercy because of your age. Being weak was a sin. In fact, these words were unintentionally boasted by Lin Feng. In his previous life, there were too many such words on the internet. Sometimes, Lin Feng would bring them out and say them. He didn't expect that this would have such a motivational effect on Tang San and the others. In any case, they were full of energy every day. Ning Rongrong found them in the meditation room. This place was newly built today. If it wasn't for Zhu Zhuqing leading the way, she wouldn't have known there was such a place. In the room, there was a strange speaker placed in the corner that kept shouting. Tang San and the others were meditating nearby. On the way here, Zhu Zhuqing had already told Ning Rongrong what happened yesterday. However, after seeing this speaker, she was still surprised. This thing, Feng Ge had mentioned it, but she didn't expect it to really be developed. It was a pity that it couldn't be spread in a short period of time. This was because ordinary low-level soul masters couldn't meditate in such a noisy environment if they didn't learn how to control their soul power. At this moment, this meditation room was exclusive to Tang San and the others, as well as a few soul sages. This was because soul sages had very strong control over their soul power and were immune to that kind of noise. Self-created soul skills were mostly created by soul masters above the soul sage rank. Therefore, it was always surprising when low-level soul masters created their own soul skills. Ning Rongrong's arrival made everyone happy. Then, under her lead, Shrek's 7 monsters walked into the reception room. After knowing that Dusty Heart was also here, Xiao Wu didn't panic at all. This was because she had an immortal herb on her. Lin Feng had specially brought it for her when he came back. This way, as long as titled Doluo didn't examine her closely, he wouldn't be able to discover her true body. Soon, the 7 of them arrived at the reception room. From the moment they met, Ning Fengji's face was filled with a warm smile, and he praised several people during the conversation. After a while of pleasantries, he expressed his purpose for coming. Shrek Academy is as I imagined. It is worthy of being an academy that can cultivate such geniuses. This time, I came mainly to see Tang San and Lin Feng. These two are often mentioned by Rongrong. They must be extremely outstanding young talents. I came to see them and talk to them about something. Tang San quickly stepped forward and said, Sect Master Ning, Feng Ge just left yesterday. It will probably take a few days for him to come back. What Sect Master Ning? We are all good classmates of Rongrong. Just call me Uncle Ning. Ning Fengji's face was full of a friendly smile. Also, we came here with great sincerity. In order to see the super monster Lin Feng that Rongrong mentioned, I was prepared to wait a few days. Hearing this, everyone was surprised by how much Ning Fengji valued Lin Feng. The dignified sect master of the 7 treasures glazed sect had brought along a titled battle pet warrior, Doluo, and said that he would wait a few days for a person. This was too much face. Xiao Feng is really something to be valued by Sect Master Ning. It's just that we don't know where he is. Otherwise, I would have gone and asked him to come back in person. Flanders was surprised and helpless at the same time. Ever since he came to Heavendoe City, Lin Feng had become mysterious. He was running around outside every day. The main reason was that they didn't know where he was. Also, Lin Feng hadn't gone through the admission procedures for so long. Officially, he wasn't a student of the Shrek Academy yet. It's okay. Just wait a few days. Ning Fengji smiled. Tang-san, I like the hidden weapons that Rongrong brought back. Our Seven Treasures Glazed sect wants to establish a partnership with you and mass-produce these hidden weapons. He knew that Tang-san was the only one who could produce these hidden weapons. Therefore, he had contacted a blacksmith master before he came. As long as Tang-san could sell the technology to them, they could produce the hidden weapons right away. Uncle Ning, how do you want to cooperate? Tang-san asked. Let's talk about this in private later. This time, I brought you gifts from the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. With that, 6 small tokens appeared in Ning Fengji's hand. He waved his hand and the tokens flew to the 6 people, except for Ning Rongrong. This is called the Seven Treasures Glazed token. If you meet a soul master of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect on the continent, show this token to him and he will help you once. Chapter 235. There were quite a lot of soul masters in the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. Although most of them were branch disciples, their auxiliary abilities were still undeniable. Moreover, most of the soul masters who were active outside were around rank 50. On the other hand, the genius soul masters of their academy would only be around 50 years old after they graduated. If they were to wander outside at this time, many problems could be solved with the help of an auxiliary-type soul master from the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. To Tang-san and the others, this was considered a rather good gift. They were all very happy. Ning Fengji smiled and said, If you have time, you can come to our Seven Treasures Glazed sect with Rongrong to play. If you graduate in the future, the doors of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect will always be open to you. Hearing this, Flanders thought to himself, this Ning Fengji is really bold. As expected of the sect master of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect, he has already begun to rope in Tang-san and the others. It was obvious that Tang-san and the others were geniuses. As long as one knew their age and soul power rank, any soul master would know how powerful they were. However, Flanders was still amazed that Ning Fengji could pull down his face to personally rope them in. After all, the gap between the two sides was too big. One was a strong person with the status of a titled Doluo, while the other was only a soul ancestor. No matter how talented they didn't have such a big face. Dugu Bo was the best example. He knew that Tang-san and the others were geniuses, but he still didn't take them seriously. So what if they were geniuses? In the future, their achievements wouldn't just be a titled Dolu. Could they become gods? It seems that Sect Master Ning values Tang-san and the others very much. However, there's still a long time before they graduate, so there's no need to rush this matter. Flanders smiled. It's okay. Ning Fengji smiled and didn't say much. Just as he was about to talk to Tang-san alone, a teacher ran in. Dean, His Highness the Crown Prince is here. This sentence surprised everyone in the reception hall. Obviously, they didn't expect this at all. In the 1 or 2 seconds that they were stunned, Xue Qinghe had already walked into the reception hall. He didn't even announce his arrival and looked very anxious. Dean Flanders, please forgive me for my sudden nagging. Just as he finished speaking, Xue Qinghe was stunned because he saw Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart on the other side. He hurriedly walked over and bowed respectfully. Greetings, teacher. Greetings, Your Highness Dusty Heart. Qinghe, why are you here? Ning Fengji asked doubtfully. As Xue Qinghe's teacher, he had taught Xue Qinghe for 5 to 6 years. The two of them were quite familiar with each other. I'm here to look for someone. His name is Lin Feng. He's a member of the Shrek Academy. If it was in the past, Xue Qinghe might not have said it and might even find an excuse to cover it up. After all, as the crown prince, coming to look for a student alone was too out of line. What would the nobles of the empire think? However, he couldn't care less now. He had almost lost his life. Xue Qinghe had already seen through some things. He didn't want to live like what others wanted him to live. Now that he was free from Shadow Wheel's surveillance, he had to follow his heart. For example, this Thanos who had troubled him for many years. He had to find out what was going on. You're here to look for him too? Ning Fengji's expression was slightly strange. It seemed like this Lin Feng was quite famous. Even the crown prince was looking for him. This time, Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart were even more curious about Lin Feng. They wanted to see him very much. Teacher is looking for him too? Xue Qinghe was also stunned. Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart's appearance here was already enough to surprise him. Now they were looking for the same person. Why? Xue Qinghe felt that the information he received was somewhat lacking. He must have discovered something that he didn't know. Otherwise, Ning Fengji wouldn't have brought Dusty Heart here. Your Highness, I'm really sorry. Lin Feng isn't in the academy at the moment. Flanders hurriedly told him the news. It's fine. I can wait, Xue Qinghe said subconsciously. Everyone was speechless. Today was really strange. First, the sect master of the Seven Treasures Glazed sect was here. Now, the crown prince was here. Both parties were here to look for Lin Feng and were willing to wait. This Feng Ji's reputation was too great. Everyone exclaimed that Lin Feng was amazing. Ma Hongjun was even more envious. If he could have such treatment one day, he would wake up laughing in his dreams. However, it was unfortunate that Lin Feng, whom both parties were looking for, was not in the academy. Although it was awkward, Xue Qinghe was indeed a professional spy. He quickly handled this situation in an orderly manner. The atmosphere became relaxed. In the end, Ning Fengji and Tang San went to a private room while Xue Qinghe stayed in the hall to inquire about Lin Feng. The excuse he used was Thanos. According to Xue Qinghe, one of his subordinates met Thanos in the forest and something happened. Then, Thanos mentioned Lin Feng, so he came to look for Lin Feng personally. This excuse was not bad because not many people knew about the relationship between Thanos and Lin Feng. Everyone believed it without a doubt. However, Xue Qinghe soon found out that Lin Feng would not be back for a few days. This made him very uncomfortable. However, he continued to talk to them with a smile. After saying that he would come again next time, he left. It did not matter if he was not around. Xue Qinghe sent people to keep an eye on the Shrek Academy. As soon as Lin Feng appeared, he would come over. Taking advantage of this gap, he went to subdue some of the clans that he had secretly contacted. In the private room, Ning Fengji and Tang San started talking. The first thing to talk about was not the hidden weapons. Ning Fengji was more concerned about the immortal medicine. Since it could allow Ning Rongrong's martial soul to evolve, what about him? Therefore, Ning Fengji was very concerned about this. The first thing he asked was whether Tang San still had the immortal medicine. Regarding this question, Tang San and Lin Feng had discussed it before. They all said that there was no more. Although Ning Fengji was disappointed when he found out, he was already mentally prepared. This kind of opportunity was too heaven-defying, so he did not force it. Next, they talked about the hidden weapons. Were there any stronger hidden weapons? How about the production? Could the technology be sold? To this, Tang San's answer was that there were stronger hidden weapons. However, the materials used to create them were very precious and difficult to find. Moreover, they could not be mass-produced. As for the technology, that was Tang San's lifeblood. How could he sell it? He immediately rejected it. At most, he could only tell Ning Fengji the manufacturing method of some parts and let them produce it. In the end, he would assemble it himself. In the end, although the situation was not what Ning Fengji had expected, the two sides still came to an agreement. This was also thanks to Ning Rongrong, who pulled the two sides together. Otherwise, according to Tang San's thoughts, Ning Fengji would be an outsider. Not to mention high-level hidden weapons, he would not even give him a silent sleeve arrow. Chapter 236. After discussing the cooperation, the next thing Ning Fengji wanted to do was the most important thing for this trip. That was to invite Tang San to join the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. Of course, Lin Feng was also invited. He even promised to betroth Ning Rongrong to Lin Feng. After all, Ning Rongrong was also interested in Lin Feng. Ning Fengji agreed to this marriage. But unfortunately, Lin Feng wasn't around, so he could only invite Tang San first. If Tang San joined, Lin Feng and Xiao Wu would be easier to rope in. That's right, among the few people from Shrek, he paid the most attention to these three siblings. He knew from Ning Rongrong that it was because of this Lin Feng that they were so strong. Even a master wasn't as useful as Lin Feng. Lin Feng inspired all of them and also grasped many things. Ning Fengji even heard a very high evaluation from Ning Rongrong. Whoever gets Lin Feng will get the continent. As they had promised to keep it a secret, Ning Rongrong didn't tell her father in detail. But to give such an evaluation, it was enough to show how important Lin Feng was. Ning Rongrong came from the Seven Treasures Glazed sect, so she still had this insight. Because of this evaluation, Ning Fengji also thought highly of Lin Feng and felt that waiting for a few days was worth it. As for Tang San, he promised many benefits in this invitation. Even Dusty Heart said on the spot that if they met with trouble, he could ask him to help once. However, Tang San wasn't interested. His dream was to bring glory to the Tang sect in this world, and he wouldn't join other sections. So he directly rejected Ning Fengji's invitation. Ning Fengji didn't force him. It didn't matter if he failed this time. As long as he didn't leave a bad impression, there would still be chances next time. In any case, Ning Fengji was determined to get Lin Feng and the other two. After the conversation, Ning Fengji and Tang San discussed the details of making hidden weapons. The day passed quickly. That morning, after Lin Feng earned tens of millions of experience points, he suddenly remembered something. Dugu Bo's poison array was too big and too conspicuous. He had to dismantle it completely and shrink it a little. Then, he would replace it with a bewildering array. The principle behind this formation was very simple. It used soul stones to provide energy, and then one's own soul skills were inscribed on special materials and placed at specific locations. When they intersected with each other, they formed a formation. Lin Feng, Dugu Bo, and that shadow wheel didn't have any illusion-type soul skills. Lin Feng planned to make a trip to Heaven Do City to find a soul master with illusion-type soul skills and figure out the principles behind them. Then, he created an illusory array formation around the Icefire Yin-Yang well. With that thought in mind, Lin Feng rushed to Heaven Do City. Even though Shadow Wheel couldn't escape, he was constantly trying to transmit information. But last night, Dugu Bo found out about his little tricks and beat him up. Then, he took away everything on him. At this moment, Yingluan was in despair. He could only stay here every day without any hope. Today, he was even beaten up. It was too miserable. After Lin Feng entered Heaven Do City, he immediately rushed to the Shrek Academy. In terms of the variety of martial souls and soul skills, Soul Master Academies were definitely one of the top places. The main reason was that the Soul Masters here were very obedient. He could easily find an academy with illusion-type soul skills. Furthermore, he could probably find a few more. Lin Feng learned all of them and created a more suitable one based on the principles. It didn't matter if the soul skill was weak. It could become stronger in Lin Feng's hands. When the time came, he could create an array formation. It probably wouldn't be able to block titled Doluo, but Soul Doluo might be fooled if he didn't look carefully. As for those below Soul Doluo, they wouldn't be able to discover it. In this way, the security of the Icefire Yin Yang well increased greatly. Lin Feng could even set up an array within an array to increase the security of the place. After all, this was Lin Feng's holy ground. It was good to have an extra layer of protection. Just as Lin Feng stepped into the academy's gate, the Crown Prince's people who were in charge of monitoring him immediately reported this news. This was the benefit of monitoring a place with many people. Lin Feng didn't realize that he was being monitored. After all, there were too many people watching him when he entered. After receiving the news, Xueqinghe rushed over. At this moment, Lin Feng had already arrived at the academy. Instead of looking for Tang San and the others, he went straight to the dean's office. He was going to ask Flanders to go with him to these classes to find a few students who could use illusionary soul skills. After all, there were only a few people in the academy who knew Lin Feng. If he went alone, he might be kicked out. However, as soon as he entered the office, Flanders said with a happy face, "Little Feng, you're back. 7 treasures glazed sect Master Ning and His Highness the Crown Prince are looking for you." Nanny? Lin Feng could understand why the Crown Prince was looking for him, but why the hell was Ning Fengji looking for him? However, Lin Feng had more important things to do. He said directly, "Dean, can you accompany me to the Academy's classes? I want to find a few soul masters with special soul skills." "Don't you want to see Sect Master Ning first? He has been waiting in the Academy for a day. He should be tinkering with some hidden weapons with Xiao San now." Flanders was slightly speechless. If others heard that a big shot like Ning Fengji was looking for them, they might jump up in excitement, but you didn't care at all. "Don't worry about that. My matter is more important," Lin Feng said. Flanders. Okay, there was nothing to say. Let's follow Lin Feng to find a special soul master first. Maybe this was the world of geniuses. Some things that they valued were nothing in the eyes of others. However, as soon as the two of them left the office, they saw Ning Rongrong. "Feng Ge, you're finally back. My father is looking for you." With that, she shouted directly outside, "Dad, Feng Ge is back." Lin Feng. At this time, Lin Feng found that Ning Fengji, Dusty Heart, and Tang San on the sports field were preparing to go outside. He guessed that they were going to prepare some hidden weapons. Ning Rongrong just came over, mainly to report to Flanders, but she didn't expect to meet Lin Feng. "Feng Ge." Tang San immediately ran over. Behind him, Ning Fengji and Dusty Heart looked at each other and walked over with a happy face. Originally, they had planned to wait for a few days, but they didn't expect that Lin Feng would appear on the second day. It was really a surprise. After approaching, Tang San quickly told Lin Feng about Ning Fengji, such as hidden weapons, immortal grasses, and recruitment. After nodding, Lin Feng smiled and cupped his hands to the two. "Sect Master Ning, Your Highness Dusty Heart, Lin Feng greets you. Don't be so distant, just call me Uncle Ning." Ning Fengji's face was full of smiles. Dusty Heart behind him narrowed his eyes, then smiled and said, "When I first saw you, I felt that your martial soul was strange and I couldn't see through your strength. Now it's even stranger. I actually feel that you are an ordinary person. Not simple." Chapter 237. When Dusty Heart had first met Lin Feng, he'd left in a hurry because of his face. At that time, he'd only felt that this child's martial soul was strange and that his physique was extremely strong. Now that he'd met him again, he couldn't see through him at all. It was truly astonishing. One had to know that Dusty Heart was a rank 96 titled Dolu. His eyes were incomparably sharp, and he could even see through some illusions. But now, he couldn't see through a soul ancestor? However, it was also because of this that Dusty Heart felt that Ning Rongrong was right. This Lin Feng was truly a monster. "My martial soul is special. I'm only a soul ancestor. With that, Lin Feng hurriedly simulated the aura of a rank 47 soul ancestor. With Lin Feng's current control over his soul power and the special nature of his martial soul, no one on the entire continent would be able to see through him unless titled Doluo used a soul skill that specialized in detecting soul power. Dusty Heart sensed again and laughed. You're worthy of being called a super monster. Lin Feng was only 13 years old. A 13-year-old soul ancestor, and he'd probably become a soul king before the tournament. Dusty Heart had never seen such a cultivation speed before. Ning Fengji and Flanders were rather sensitive to soul power. When Lin Feng emitted soul power fluctuations, they also felt it. Flanders nodded in understanding. He'd previously guessed that Lin Feng was an advanced soul ancestor. Now it was as he'd guessed. Ning Fengji sighed. With your strength, you should be number 1 in this year's Continental Elite Academy tournament. With geniuses like you participating, the championship will be within reach. According to the standards of previous tournaments, Shrek Academy's team would definitely be the champions. Hearing this, Lin Feng had not yet spoken when Flanders quickly spoke up with a modest tone. Sect Master Ning is too serious. The seeded teams from the Martial Spirit Palace and the 2 empires are still very strong. We still need to strengthen our training. In fact, Flanders wasn't modest at all. He directly compared the Shrek Academy's team to the seeded teams of the 2 empires and the Martial Spirit Palace. As for the other teams, Flanders didn't put them in his eyes at all. After all, they were a team of geniuses. If Flanders didn't have any pride, then he would be too stupid. At this moment, Lin Feng directly exposed him. Director, I don't think anyone can fight in the competition. Flanders was speechless. Feng Gu, didn't you say that you weren't going to play? Ning Rongrong asked curiously. She remembered that Lin Feng had said that he would not accompany them to the competition. That's right. I'm not going to fight. Aren't the 7 of you enough? Don't you have any confidence in yourselves? Lin Feng asked back. Of course I do. Ning Rongrong said. On the side, Tang San also nodded and said, Feng Gu is right. We are already very strong. We need to have some confidence and aim for the championship, as long as we stay vigilant and go all out in the battle. As a genius, it was natural to have some pride and arrogance. An appropriate amount of pride could make people progress quickly, as long as they didn't become too conceited. Well said, geniuses should have this kind of arrogance. Ning Fengji praised. Speaking of which, in order to recruit these 2 geniuses, Ning Fengji had praised them more than a dozen times in the past 2 days. On the one hand, he felt that it was reasonable. On the other hand, he had to praise Lin Feng and the others. In layman's terms, he was a bootlicker. Ning Fengji was sucking up to Lin Feng and Tang San, but it was more subtle. He wanted to increase their favorability and then rope them in. After exchanging some pleasantries, Ning Rongrong said under Ning Fengji's signal, Feng Gu, my father wants to talk to you alone. Ning Rongrong knew what Ning Fengji wanted to talk to Lin Feng about. He wanted to rope him in to join the sect. If necessary, he would even marry her to Lin Feng. Thinking of this, Ning Rongrong was a little excited. If it's about joining the sect, then forget it. Lin Feng's first sentence stunned everyone. I don't like to be restricted. I won't join a sect. Our 7 Treasures Glazed sect won't have the slightest restriction. It's very free and will provide all kinds of resources. Ning Fengji said quickly. Ning Fengji was a little upset that he was rejected before they even started talking. At the side, Flanders shook his head helplessly. This Ning Fengji was trying to poach someone in front of him. The main thing was that he couldn't say anything. Dusty Heart, the titled Doluo, was staring at him. Under this pressure, Flanders didn't dare to speak. Maybe I didn't say it clearly enough. Lin Feng smiled and said, Uncle Ning, actually, I don't lack money or resources. I can also hunt for soul rings myself. I don't need any extra help. This, Ning Fengji actually wanted to ask Dusty Heart to teach Lin Feng. However, after thinking about the master, he swallowed this sentence. He didn't even mention Ning Rongrong's matter. Lin Feng's meaning was very clear. He had everything that the Seven Treasures glazed sect could provide him. There was no need for him to go to the sect. At this moment, Ning Fengji had nothing other than the protection of the titled Doluo and Ning Rongrong. Moreover, these two chips weren't decisive. It didn't mean that Lin Feng would join their sect as soon as he took them out. These were all preconditions. At this moment, Lin Feng didn't have this idea at all. It was useless for him to bring it up. If that's the case, I won't force you. Here's a Seven Treasures glazed token. If you run into any trouble in the future, you can seek help from the soul cultivators of the Seven Treasures glazed school. Ning Fengji handed a token to Lin Feng. Ning Fengji was still very disappointed in this trip to the Shrek Academy. The person that he wanted to recruit the most actually rejected him so firmly. Tang San didn't try to rope him in either. As for Xiao Wu, he didn't even try. There was no need to think about it. She was definitely the same as Lin Feng and Tang San. She wouldn't join them. Fortunately, this trip wasn't completely fruitless. At least they got an order for hidden weapons from Tang San. The life-saving ability of the Seven Treasures glazed sect's soul masters would increase by a level. After exchanging a few more pleasantries, Lin Feng and Ning Fengji parted ways. When they left, Ning Rongrong even glared at him. Lin Feng was a little confused. However, he didn't think too much about it. Lin Feng quickly found a total of 8 students in the academy with illusionary soul skills with Flanders. In fact, Flanders was very curious about why Lin Feng was looking for these people. However, Lin Feng only replied with 3 words: research. As for what research, he didn't know, so he was very curious. The 8 of you, come to me one by one and release your soul skills at me. Lin Feng's method of obtaining the principles of their soul skills was very simple. First, he wanted them to release their soul skills at him once to see the effect. Then, he directly placed his hand on their bodies and asked them to release their soul skills a few more times to feel the way their soul power worked. Chapter 238. Lin Feng only had to memorize the way they operated their soul power. After memorizing it, Lin Feng was able to roughly understand the principles behind it. Just like that, Lin Feng spent a few minutes to memorize all their soul skills. Flanders was dumbfounded the entire time. He didn't understand what kind of research was this. Just throwing soul skills like that? That's it? Little Feng, what kind of research is this? Flanders asked curiously. Dean, why haven't you left? Lin Feng raised his head and was slightly puzzled. Just now, Lin Feng's mind was focused on simulating the principles behind those soul skills, so he didn't pay attention to the outside world. He thought that the tool Flanders had already left. He didn't expect him to still be there. Flanders. Seeing Flanders's slightly strange expression, Lin Feng explained, I'm just looking at the principles behind their soul skills and experimenting blindly. Dean, I have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. Lin Feng was in a hurry to go back and set up the formation. After he finished speaking, he ran out of the academy. Flanders stood where he was and was slightly confused. After a long while, he sighed. I'm old. I can't keep up with the young people's thoughts. Lin Feng quickly exited the academy's gate. However, after taking 2 steps, he realized that Xue Qinghe was actually walking towards him. Although he had disguised himself, Lin Feng instantly realized that this was Xue Qinghe. The two of them looked at each other and Xue Qinghe immediately walked over. Lin Feng, I have something to ask you. Oh, why is your highness looking for me? Lin Feng smiled. At the same time, he was very curious. What did the Crown Prince want to ask him? Shouldn't he be going to the Martial Soul Hall to ask for reinforcements at this time? Lin Feng guessed that the soul sage that he killed in Soto City should be someone sent by the Crown Prince. Logically speaking, this guy should hate him very much. However, he actually came to find him alone. Was he not afraid of death? There's a tea house over there. Why don't we go and have a seat? Xueqinghe had only casually disguised himself, so it was within his expectations that he would be discovered. What surprised him was that Lin Feng was not surprised by his appearance at all. This was interesting. Did he not care, or did he know something? Let's go. Lin Feng smiled and walked into the private room of the tea house with Xueqinghe. After taking a seat, Xueqinghe asked, "You don't seem surprised at all." "Your Highness, you went to the Heaven Do Academy to stand up for us. I knew that you had something to ask of me. What's so surprising about you coming here today?" Lin Feng took a sip of tea. "You are very smart, Black Tiger Ah Fu." Xueqinghe suddenly called out Lin Feng's nickname. He thought that Lin Feng would be surprised or curious about how he knew this code name. However, Lin Feng said matter-of-factly, "I also know that I'm very smart, so? The question is it smart? It's clearly your code name, Black Tiger Ah Fu." Xueqinghe was about to go crazy, but he still calmed down and continued, "I'm here to find out more information. I heard that you know a Doloa called Thanos. Can you tell me more about him?" "Sure." Lin Feng took another sip of tea. "But what benefits can I get?" "You can gain the friendship of the royal family." Xueqinghe felt very uncomfortable. Normally speaking, it was normal to ask someone for a reward. However, he was the crown prince. His status was incomparably high. Normally, when he asked someone for a favor, they would do it without a second thought. In the eyes of the soul masters of the Heaven Do Empire, being able to gain the favor of the crown prince was already a great gift. Lin Feng wanted a reward? How insensible. These are all empty words. What's the use of them? I want tangible benefits. Lin Feng looked at Xueqinghe as if he was looking at an idiot. You want to dismiss me with these empty words? What a joke. Xueqinghe was stunned. Then, he said, as long as you tell me, I'll immediately get someone to make you a viscount. You're not sincere. Let's not talk about it. Do I care about a title? What's the use of a title? I'll pay my respects. With that, Lin Feng prepared to leave. He didn't know if Xueqinghe was stupid. According to the laws of the Heaven Do Empire, soul masters who were soul ancestors could directly apply for the title of viscount. Wait. Xueqinghe felt a headache coming on. After thinking for a moment, he said, Soul Bone. As long as you can tell me everything about Thanos, I'll give you a 10,000-year soul bone. Soul bones were something that low-level soul masters could only dream of, but not obtain. However, in the eyes of experts, soul bones were just trading goods. Especially soul bones that had just entered the 10,000-year level. There were actually many of these soul bones in stock. Sometimes, one could even squat in the Heaven Do auction house. After all, there were some soul masters who specialized in hunting 10,000-year soul beasts to earn money. The main production of soul bones came from this group of people. However, the channels for these people's soul bones were monopolized by some forces. Very few people even knew of their existence. For example, Lin Feng didn't know about this channel. Otherwise, he would have had his eyes on it long ago. That's more like it. Lin Feng laughed as he sat down. He didn't care about 10,000-year soul bones. Even some titled Dolua didn't care about them. They were probably used by soul masters like soul emperors and soul Dolua. However, if used at a young age, they would still be very powerful. After all, soul bones could also grow. Although their age wouldn't change, their power would still increase by a lot. For example, if he gave the soul bone to Tang San and the others, when they grew up to become titled Dolua, the additional attributes of the 10,000-year soul bone wouldn't be worse than a titled Doloi using it for 60 to 70,000 years. If Lin Feng could obtain this soul bone now, he wouldn't use it himself. On one hand, this soul bone wasn't compatible with soul rings, so its effect might be weaker. On the other hand, 10,000-year soul bones were too weak. If he used them, it would consume too much experience. It wasn't worth it. If he wanted a soul bone, he could get a set when he added soul rings to the 1,000 trickery ruler in the future. A 10,000-year soul bone isn't something that can be taken out just because you want it. Tell me about it first, and I'll personally deliver it to you in a few days. Trying to gain something without risking anything? Lin Feng stood up again. Forgive me for not accompanying you. To be honest, after so many years, Xue Qinghe had never met someone like Lin Feng. He was about to explode from anger. At this moment, he took out a pure white stone from his soul tool and placed it on the table. This is a 5th-grade soul stone. Its value isn't lower than a 10,000-year soul bone. I'll put it in your hands. Wait for my soul bone to come and exchange it. This should be fine, right? If he didn't need Lin Feng's help, Xue Qinghe couldn't wait to capture Lin Feng and torture him. That's more like it. Lin Feng smiled as he grabbed the soul stone in his hand. He fiddled with it for a while before putting it away. Ask away. I'll tell you everything I know. Chapter 239. Speaking of which, the people in Dolua's world were quite honest. Basically, they had no concept of lying. Before a fight, they would let their opponent know their martial soul and strength. They were really too honest. Tang San in the original work was the same. On the surface, he was extremely cautious, but in reality, he was just a naive person. When he met some powerful people, he would answer whatever they asked. He would believe whatever others said. Most importantly, these words were all true. No one lied to him. This was the most amazing thing. The people in this world were too honest. Even though Lin Feng had taught Tang San and the others to learn to hide their strength and be more cautious, it did not seem to work very well. But from the looks of it now, the effect was not very good. Generally speaking, those who were slightly familiar with Tang San would know his strength. Then, looking at Lin Feng himself, no one knew how strong he was. So what if Xue Qinghe was suspicious? He still did not know his true identity. You think you can see through it, but in fact, I let you see it on purpose. You're old. Lin Feng thought about it carefully and felt that he was the only old Yin coin in this world. No, no, no. I'm so handsome and a proper gentleman. How can I be an old Yin coin? Lin Feng quickly hypnotized himself, hinting that he was a gentleman. At this moment, Xue Qinghe asked the first question, "Are you Thanos' son?" Lin Feng was dumbfounded by the first question. If I'm his own son, then that's really good. I really don't know how Xue Qinghe came to this conclusion. Although he was dumbfounded, he quickly said, "No, but he's very good to me." This answer was beyond Xue Qinghe's expectations. He immediately felt that Lin Feng was lying. However, after thinking about it, it was still possible. If he was not his son, it was possible that he was his nephew. In any case, the two of them must have a close relationship. However, this was not the main point. He did not pursue the matter. Instead, he asked the second question, "Do you know which family or force he's from?" "I don't know. I've never heard him mention it. He should be a Lone Ranger. Anyway, he's very powerful. Can you contact him now?" "No." "Are you willing to join the Imperial family?" Suddenly, Xue Qinghe asked. Lin Feng was stunned for a moment before he shook his head. "No. When I succeed to the throne, I'll make you a Grand Scholar of the Empire. You'll be in charge of all the Soul Master Academies in the country." Xue Qinghe's eyes sparkled. The Grand Scholar of the Empire had a very revered status, and could be said to be on the same level as a prince. Furthermore, he was in charge of all the Soul Master Academies in the country, and the future of the entire country was in his hands. This kind of power was simply terrifying. The reason Xue Qinghe gave him this position was mainly because of Thanos, who was backing Lin Feng. Thanos was too strong. Shadow Wheel Dolua had been captured alive. This was almost impossible if the difference in strength wasn't too great. Therefore, Schwechinga guessed that this Thanos might be a super powerhouse above level 97. If he could win over such a person, it was even possible to escape the control of the Martial Spirit Palace. Of course, this offer was also made because of Lin Feng's talent. He was a soul ancestor at such a young age, and Shrek's 7 monsters. They were very likely to become titled Dolua in the future. It was worth it for him to try his best to rope them in. Not interested. Lin Feng rejected immediately. Then, he said, do you have any other questions? If not, I'm leaving. You. Schwechinga was angered again. This Lin Feng's words were too infuriating. He had only asked a few questions, and he wanted to run away. These soul bones were too easy to earn. Moreover, he had offered such generous conditions, but he was still unmoved. His heart was too hard. What kind of person is Thanos? Schwechinga held back his anger and continued to ask. He's brave, handsome, suave, outstanding, and outstanding. Not only that, he's also powerful and full of compassion. He's simply perfect. Lin Feng praised himself so quickly that Schwechinga could only stare blankly at him. But soon, Schwechinga's image of Thanos at the poison array appeared in his mind. He thought to himself, nonsense. He didn't believe a single word of Lin Feng's. At the same time, Lin Feng thought to himself, Schwechinga's questions are all useless. There's no way to know his intentions. I have to take the lead. With that thought, Lin Feng said, why are you asking me about these things? Did you offend Mr. Destroy? Or do you want to harm him? Schwechinga said calmly, nothing. I just heard that this powerful person is related to you, so I came to ask. I met Mr. Destroy yesterday. I heard from him that 2 thieves wanted to ambush him, but he caught one and let the other one go. Lin Feng threw out a more important piece of information. Hearing this, Schwechinga became anxious. He hurriedly asked, why did he catch one and let the other go? Isn't it better to kill them? Lin Feng's lips curled up. Why kill them? Mr. Destroy loves to fight, especially with titled battle pet warriors like Dolu. He let that guy go because he wanted him to call for reinforcements and then fight. I heard that the one who was caught was from the Martial Spirit Hall, and the Martial Spirit Hall has many titled battle pet warriors like Dolua. He wanted people to go and beat him up. Ingluan Dolua had the Martial Spirit Hall's token in his soul tool. It even had a way to contact the people in the secret passages near Heaven Do City. Lin Feng had asked Dugu Bo to tinker with it before he came. How can there be someone who likes to fight so much? Schwechinga could not understand Thanos's thoughts at all. He always thought it was a trap. He did not expect this to be the reason. Soon, he continued to ask, I heard from Serpent that there are 2 people with Thanos. Is this true? Lin Feng's expression changed a bit. You're lying too? When Serpent Woman from the Dragon Kingdom met him, he didn't even have the skill to create an avatar. How could he see 2 people? Lin Feng cursed in his mind. But on the surface he still said, I don't know about that. Then he continued, Your Highness, why do you think the Martial Spirit Hall is so arrogant? They dared to sneak into Heaven Do City. Do you think the city has been infiltrated by the Martial Spirit Hall since long ago? Schwechinga was taken aback. He guessed it? If Lin Feng knew his identity, he would not have told him. So, he must have guessed it. I don't think so. There are many powerful warriors in Heaven Do City. There is a large army outside. The Martial Spirit Hall would not dare to come here. Lin Feng smiled and changed the subject. Mr. Destroy likes to fight and he let one of the Martial Spirit Hall go. Your Highness, how long do you think it will take for the Martial Spirit Hall to send more people here? Besides, the one Mr. Destroy captured was also a titled battle pet warrior, Dolu. I think there will be a big battle near Heaven Do City in a few days. Lin Feng's question was to find out Xueqinghe's thoughts. Lin Feng would be able to figure out Xueqinghe's thoughts from his answer later. I don't think so. Heaven Do City is heavily guarded. I don't think the Martial Spirit Hall would dare to come here. Besides, it would take some time for them to send a message. Even if they did come, it would take them a month. Hearing this, Lin Feng squinted his eyes. He had heard some key information. The Martial Spirit Hall wouldn't dare to come. It would take them a month to send a message. From these three pieces of information, Lin Feng came to a conclusion. Xueqinghe hadn't notified the Martial Spirit Hall yet. Chapter 240. Slow Delivery of Messages? Bulsh *T. You think Lin Feng doesn't know how messages are delivered in that tunnel? That specially trained bird can fly very fast. It will take at most 3 days to deliver a message to the Martial Spirit Palace. Then, the titled Dolua would rush over, and the Martial Soul Hall would probably react in a week at most. However, Xueqinghe had said that it would take a month. Clearly, he hadn't spread the news, and had even deliberately concealed it. For a moment, Lin Feng was confused. Why didn't Xueqinghe deliver the message? Wasn't he Bibi Dong's daughter, Qian Renxue, in disguise? Why didn't he help the Martial Spirit Palace? Lin Feng was puzzled. At the same time, Lin Feng didn't think it was appropriate. If Xueqinghe didn't ask for help from the Martial Spirit Palace, how could he earn experience points? No, he had to ask for help. As for Xueqinghe, Lin Feng couldn't deliberately remind him. He had already said so much. Anything else would cause problems. But it didn't matter. He had said everything he needed to say. If Xueqinghe knew what to do, he would inform the Martial Spirit Palace. Even if he didn't inform Lin Feng, he wouldn't panic. When Xueqinghe went back, he would ask Dugubo to send the message to the Martial Spirit City through the Martial Spirit Palace's channels. Lin Feng said, I think so too. There are so many powerful warriors in the Heaven Do City. The Martial Spirit Palace wouldn't dare to come. After a pause, Lin Feng continued, Do you have any other questions? If not, remember to send the soul bone over in a few days. Just give it to Tang San. I'll pass the soul stone to him. Xueqinghe didn't have any more questions. It was just a short conversation, but he had learned a lot. Lin Feng had also answered his most pressing question, Thanos's purpose. He just wanted to fight? That was unbelievable. Xueqinghe still couldn't believe it. Also, Lin Feng said that he would give the soul stone to Tang San so that he could make a deal with Tang San? Xueqinghe was going to trade the soul bone. That was so important. Was he going to give it to Tang San? Curious, he asked, Aren't you going to trade with me? 10,000-year soul bones are too trashy. I don't need them. Lin Feng chuckled and left. Xueqinghe, though he agreed with what Bai Yunfei said, Lin Feng was only a soul ancestor. Furthermore, he was so young. Even if it was only a 10,000-year soul bone, it should still be a treasure to him. Even in the auction house, the starting price was 100,000 gold coins. How could he not be moved? This really surprised him. However, after thinking about it carefully, he felt relieved. With a powerful elder like Thanos around, there shouldn't be a lack of soul bones. Furthermore, with his talent, he would definitely obtain even better soul bones in the future. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was what Xueqinghe was going to do now. As Thanos wished. To inform the Martial Spirit Palace? This should also be the reason why Thanos let him go. However, by doing so, he was simply a tool. He wouldn't get anything out of it. What if he didn't inform the Martial Spirit Palace? Would he drag things out like he had planned? In this way, Xueqinghe would have more time to rope in the people he had secretly contacted in the city. This would increase his external strength. However, this wasn't good. If Thanos was unhappy and came to find trouble with him, it wouldn't be good. Although his mask was not taken off at that time, he was sure that there was an 80% chance that Thanos knew about his identity. This was why he told Lin Feng about this matter and said those words just now. As for Lin Feng, he probably only knew about this matter, but didn't know his identity. Otherwise, he wouldn't have reacted like that. No. I have to look for Thanos again. Regardless of which idea he had, the benefits he could obtain would be limited. He had to specifically look for Thanos to talk to him. This was the only way he could obtain the greatest benefits for himself. As he thought about this, Xueqinghe prepared to make another trip to the setting sun forest. On the other hand, Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to find Tang San to deliver the soul stone after he left the tea house. This matter wasn't urgent. It wasn't too late tomorrow. He quickly left the city and returned to the Icefire Yin Yang well. First, he asked Dugubo about the Martial Spirit Palace's information channels. Dugubo said that he was about to learn it. At most, he would be able to use Ying Luan's identity to send out information in half a day. Lin Feng expressed his approval. After that, he asked Dugubo to dismantle the poison array and bring the materials back. Dugubo was puzzled as to why Lin Feng wanted to dismantle the poison array, but he didn't say anything. He hurriedly went to carry out his task. On the other hand, Lin Feng started to demonstrate the illusory soul skills he had just learned near the Icefire Yin Yang well. There were a total of 8 types. 3 of them were similar and caused people to enter a trance. The other 5 were more unique and caused people to enter an illusory realm through different methods. Lin Feng understood these principles thoroughly. After that, he prepared to create an illusory soul skill that was similar to the ghostly labyrinth. Then, he would complement it with a formation. In this way, people who passed by would realize that the Icefire Yin Yang well was just like an ordinary forest. There was nothing special about it. If people accidentally walked in, they would be let out very naturally. They wouldn't be able to discover the real Icefire Yin Yang well. Creating such a soul skill required a lot of brainpower. Even though Lin Feng could multitask now, he could even think of 6 ideas at once. However, it would take at least an hour to do so. Dolua was very fast. After about 10 minutes, Dugubo dismantled the poison array and brought the materials back. "My lord, are you going to build another great formation yourself?" "Yes." After he finished speaking, Lin Feng continued to study his illusory soul skill. He didn't bother with Dugubo anymore. Dugubo was also tactful. He quickly left. After an hour and a half, Lin Feng smiled. He had finally completed his research. It was his self-created soul skill, the ghostly labyrinth. After using it, the enemy would feel as if they were in a different space. They wouldn't have any sense of direction. Now that the soul skill had been created, and he understood the principles behind it, Lin Feng immediately started to carve the soul skills patterns on the materials. This was a technical job. Dugubo had spent 2 months to set up this poison array. However, Lin Feng was much faster. He completed it in an hour. On one hand, he was multitasking. On the other hand, his illusory formation was much smaller than his poison array. After carving the materials and experimenting with them, Lin Feng quickly set up the formation near the Icefire Yin Yang well. He was even faster. In less than 5 minutes, the illusory formation was completed. It was quite effective. Soul sages couldn't break it. Even Soul Dolua wouldn't be able to discover anything. Unless a titled Dolua had a special soul skill to see through it, he would only be able to discover anything if he released a soul skill with strong soul power undulations inside the formation. However, no one would come here to fight if they didn't know about the illusory formation. Even Dugubo and the others were some distance away from the Icefire Yin Yang well. Therefore, this formation was very well hidden. Chapter 241. He had just finished setting up the formation and was testing its effects when Dugubo came running over. "My lord, the person you let go yesterday is back." Lin Feng was taken aback and hurried over. It had only been 3 hours, and the setting sun forest was still quite far from Heaven-Do City. Xuechinghe wasn't Dugubo, and he had come over so quickly, which meant that he had come right after talking to him. What was he doing here? Saving Yingluan on his own? Lin Feng and Dugubo came to an open space with doubts in their mind. Xuechinghe was here. Dugubo had captured him after discovering him. Xuechinghe had said that he was here for Thanos, so Dugubo didn't do anything to him. He didn't remove his mask even though he was curious. Yingluan was talking to Xuechinghe about something, but he immediately shut up when Dugubo and Lin Feng came over. Yingluan, don't try any tricks, or I'll take your life, Dugubo said with a smile. Yingluan smiled bitterly. I wouldn't dare. His life was in someone else's hands. Even though Yingluan and Dugubo had known each other before, he was in a different position. Fortunately, Dolo was also a titled battle pet warrior, so Dugubo still gave Yingluan some face. At the very least, he didn't lock Yingluan up like a criminal. Lin Feng raised his hand, and the ruler turned into a giant hand that grabbed Xuechinghe. I told you to call for help. Where is he? This was a new scene. Even Dugubo hadn't expected Lin Feng to use this move. He had always seen Lin Feng use a rod. Xuechinghe was also shocked. On one hand, he was surprised by Lin Feng's martial soul, which was very special. On the other hand, he was surprised by Dugubo. He hadn't noticed Dugubo was here when he was captured last time. He was quite shocked when he saw Dugubo. He felt that Dugubo was much stronger than before. Yingluan had even told him that Dugubo might have reached rank 95 and was very strong. One had to know that Dugubo had only been at level 91 before. In a short month, he had broken through 4 levels in a row? It was truly shocking. As for Dugubo, he was a true loner. No one from the Imperial family, Martial Spirit Palace, or any of the other major powers could invite him to join them. Even Prince Xuexing was only given the opportunity to be a guest elder because of Dugubo's kindness. Who would have thought that it would be subdued by Thanos? Your Holiness Thanos, I'm here to discuss a partnership. Xuechinghe suppressed the shock in his heart and said calmly. Cooperation? Lin Feng was taken aback. He never thought that Thanos's identity would have any sort of cooperation with Xuechinghe. This cooperation is of great importance. I hope to speak with you alone. Xuechinghe was taking a gamble at this moment. He was gambling that, as Lin Feng had said, Thanos really liked to fight. This was a huge gamble. If he gambled correctly and cooperated with Thanos, he wouldn't be bound by Martial Spirit Palace anymore. Bibi Dong, in particular, wouldn't be able to control him anymore. At that time, he would be the real Xuechinghe and not a spy from Martial Spirit Palace. If he gambled wrongly, he would say that he was good friends with Black Tiger Fu. Lin Feng and Thanos's relationship was definitely not ordinary. He wouldn't die if he said that. Regardless of which choice he made, he would have to reveal his identity. Therefore, he couldn't let Yingluan know. After being secretly controlled by Bibi Dong for so many years, Xuechinghe was filled with resentment towards her. Now that the opportunity to break free was right in front of him, the temptation was too great. He had to gamble. At worst, he would just die. Xuechinghe had already mentally prepared himself. Of course, he dared to gamble because he felt that the chances were quite high. After so many years of investigation, Lin Feng's words were most likely true. Moreover, he had specifically asked Yingluan and learned that he had been beaten up this morning. This time, he felt even more confident. Talk in private? Interesting. Lin Feng chuckled and nodded. Okay, I'll give you a chance. With that, Lin Feng brought Xuechinghe to a nearby cave. Then, he used the 1,000-trick ruler to cover the cave. Speak. Lin Feng was a man of few words. With his identity, he had to have a cold image. Xuechinghe organized his words and said, Sir, I'm actually the crown prince of the Heaven-Do Empire, Xuechinghe. With that, He took off his mask and revealed a handsome face. It was the Crown Prince's face. He didn't show that he had disguised his face with a soul bone because it wasn't necessary. Lin Feng didn't move. He didn't even say a word. Xue Qinghe wasn't surprised. He continued, I can contact Martial Spirit Palace to send people over to satisfy your desire to fight. As long as you control it well, you can control the level of Doluo. You can deal with them calmly. Then, after listening to Xue Qinghe for a minute or two, Lin Feng roughly understood what Xue Qinghe was thinking. Huo Hao wanted to continuously provide him with titled Doluo opponents. As long as he cooperated with Huo Hao's act, he would be able to fight titled Doluo twice a month. Furthermore, there wouldn't be any accidents in those fights. Xue Qinghe even analyzed the pros and cons of this with Lin Feng. Although the number of fights would decrease, it would be much safer. Otherwise, if something happened to another group of people, the consecrators of Martial Spirit Palace would intervene. By then, no matter how strong Lin Feng was, he would die if he was surrounded. It had to be said that Xue Qinghe's mind was still quite sharp. This way, he did not have to worry about the experience points being taken away. Also, if he only fought twice a month, his experience points wouldn't decrease. This was a sustainable development strategy. What a good plan. But there was a problem. If Xue Qinghe was unfavorable to him or played tricks, he might be besieged. Of course, Lin Feng wouldn't be afraid. With the soul skills of teleportation and body exchange, Lin Feng just needed to be prepared in advance. Thinking about it, he said calmly, so what do I need to do? Xue Qinghe took such a big risk to discuss cooperation. He must have something to ask of him. Protect me, Xue Qinghe said solemnly. My plan will only work for a year at most. After a long time, Martial Spirit Palace will also react. I hope you can protect me after that. Then, he continued, actually, my identity as the Crown Prince is fake. My real identity is Martial Spirit Palace's Branch Hall Master. But now I'm tired of Martial Spirit Palace. I want to be the real Crown Prince. I hope you can help me when the Martial Spirit Palace wants to deal with me. The Heaven Do Empire also had spies in Martial Spirit City. If Martial Spirit Palace sent out a large number of titled Doluo, Xue Qinghe would ask the Seven Treasures Glazed sect for help. In addition, Lin Feng and Dugubo were there. Even if the Pope came in person, nothing would happen. Chapter 242. Actually, it wasn't Bibi Dong who wanted him to go to the Seven Treasures Glazed sect. It was Xue Qinghe who fought for it. His goal was to leave the Martial Spirit Hall in the future. After all, he had a teacher-student relationship with Ning Fengji. If he fell out with the Martial Spirit Hall in the future, he would have a defensive strategy. However, these weren't very safe, so he hadn't made up his mind yet. But this time, Thanos was different. He was a peerless expert and Dugubo. With their promise, Xue Qinghe wouldn't panic at all. He would completely leave the Martial Spirit Hall's control. Jinshin, Dugubo, Thanos, and a few hidden titled warriors of the Heaven Do Empire, Dolu. With Ning Fengji's buff, even his grandfather, Qian Daolu, wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Branch Hall Master? Why did he betray the Martial Spirit Hall? Lin Feng was puzzled. He really didn't understand why Xue Qinghe wanted to leave the Martial Spirit Hall. Wasn't he Bibi Dong's daughter? Lin Feng remembered that Bibi Dong and Qianrenxue seemed to have become gods in the end. As for the emotional description in the middle, Lin Feng forgot because he didn't read it in detail. However, he remembered that Xue Qinghe didn't betray the Martial Spirit Hall. It was a long time later when he revealed his identity. And his strength, he was already a soul sage. Although his soul power fluctuations weren't strong, and it felt like he had just become a soul sage, his speed seemed to be a little faster. Actually, things had changed a lot since Lin Feng met Xue Qinghe in the Setting Sun Forest. In the original book, Xueqinghe was busy with all kinds of communication and learning, so his cultivation was a little slower. However, because of Lin Feng's appearance, he spent more information on cultivation, so his strength improved a little faster than in the original book. However, it wasn't much faster, about 1 or 2 levels. It's not betrayal, it's leaving. Xueqinghe corrected Lin Feng. The martial spirit hall controlled me too much, and it made me sick. I wanted to live with a new identity, and not be a pawn in the martial spirit hall's hand. Xueqinghe only felt resentment towards Bibi Dong. He resented Bibi Dong's heartlessness and his abandonment. For so many years, he had been pretending to be another person here. Other than getting orders from Bibi Dong, he had never felt the motherly love that he longed for. As for the martial spirit hall, he still had feelings for it. After all, many of the soul masters there were his first teachers. I see. Lin Feng nodded slightly. However, in his heart, he thought that Xueqinghe had developed a rebellious heart. However, this was also good. It would make things easier for him. However, this protection still had to be discussed properly. I can protect you, but I can't protect you all the time. I still have things to do. Xueqinghe hurriedly said, "Don't worry, sir. If you need protection, I will notify you in advance. You only need to be near Heavendo City." There was about a day's worth of time between the departure of the martial spirit city and their response to the news. The setting sun forest wasn't far from Heavendo City. Lin Feng was in the middle of the forest. When the time came, he would personally come over to invite them. All right. Lin Feng nodded. Xueqinghe smiled in delight when he saw this. Then, he explained his plan to Lin Feng in detail. After hearing this, Lin Feng felt some admiration for this guy. He came to Heavendo City alone to be a spy. Although the martial spirit hall secretly assisted him, he did most of the work himself. Not only did he complete the tasks assigned to him by the martial spirit hall, but he also obtained many strategic maps and information on the strength of many families. At the same time, he also secretly roped in many families. Some people from academies were also on good terms with him. He even obtained the support of the Heavendo Imperial Academy and the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. Under such circumstances, he was definitely going to take the throne. Even some of the Snowy Night Emperor's authority was given to him. He also had the right to mobilize 100 guards in Heavendo City. This was a favor. In a city, not even a prince could directly mobilize the army. Xueqinghe, on the other hand, could. This was enough to show how much the Snowy Night Emperor valued him. Of course, roping in these people to gain the favor of the Snowy Night Emperor was just a basic operation. What Lin Feng admired the most was that Xueqinghe had already thought of a way out for himself. If he really left the martial spirit hall, Dusty Heart and his teacher Ning Fengji from the 7 Treasures Glazed sect would come to protect him. There were also several titled battle pet warriors hiding in the Heavendo Empire, as well as the encirclement of the army. This would be enough to fend off the martial spirit hall's attack. If that was the case, with Lin Feng and Dugubo's help, the martial spirit hall would be safe. If the martial spirit hall did launch a large-scale attack, he could take advantage of this opportunity to gain a lot of experience points. Just like this, Xueqinghe left after a short discussion. He was ready to lure the titled battle pet warriors of the martial spirit hall over. He didn't care about the shadow wheel. According to him, the shadow wheel wasn't important and it was fine to keep it locked up. He could just release it after a while. This was exactly what Lin Feng wanted. This guy could give him more than 10 million experience points a day. He couldn't bear to release it now. He had almost 200 million experience points now. In a few days, he would be able to break through 2 of his soul rings at the same time. Why didn't he break through them one by one? Because the energy produced by breaking through 2 soul rings at the same time was greater than that produced by 1 soul ring alone. This way, Xiaoying could improve a little more. In addition, Xiaoying had been following him around the icefire Yin-Yang well every day and had eaten a lot of herbs. If he used this energy to stimulate the medicinal power in its body, its strength would increase faster. As for why he didn't break through all 4 soul rings at the same time, it was because the energy produced was too great. Xiaoying probably couldn't absorb it at all. If it tried to forcefully absorb it, its life would be in danger. If he steadily broke through 2 soul rings at a time and with the stimulation of the medicinal power, it would probably break through to the 100,000-year level soon. Xiaoying was now 60,000 years old and was a little stronger than a soul sage. It could even contend with Dolua. Without thinking too much, Lin Feng returned to the maze after Xueqinghe left and continued to perfect the details of the maze. Xueqinghe told him that if nothing unexpected happened, the Martial Spirit Hall would send a titled battle pet warrior Dolua to investigate in 5 days. There should be 2 people. He and Dugu Bo could easily deal with them. When the time came, they could just fight. They couldn't capture them or kill them. They could just let them go. And this was the first cooperation between Xueqinghe and Lin Feng in their plan. As long as the results were good, their cooperation would be considered complete. Thinking about the large amount of experience points that would soon enter his account, Lin Feng couldn't help but smile as he tidied up the maze. Chapter 243. The next day, Lin Feng went to Dugu Bo and Yingluan to collect a round of protection fees. After collecting for 3 consecutive days, the amount of protection fees had dropped by a lot. In total, it was only a little over 25 million. However, with this, his experience points had reached 200 million. He could use it to break through 2 of his soul rings. After returning to the icefire Yin-Yang well, Lin Feng grabbed Xiaoying and left. The commotion caused by a soul ring breaking through was too great. Even with the 1,000 trickery ruler, it would still leak out. Dugu Bo and the others were also very sensitive, so Lin Feng had to stay away from them. After flying for about 300 kilometers to the south, Lin Feng found an uninhabited mountain top and landed. According to the order, Lin Feng wanted to break through his 3rd and 4th soul rings. The armored bears and the fireweaver monkey's soul rings were currently at 10,000 years, while the fireweaver monkey's soul rings were at 1,459. Lin Feng had spent 170 million to upgrade them to 999. After covering them with the 1,000 trickery ruler and adding a few more layers, Lin Feng spent another 20 million to break through these 2 soul rings. After experiencing it several times, Lin Feng was very relaxed this time. He could even direct the remnant soul power to envelop Xiaoying. On the other hand, Xiaoying was rapidly digesting the medicinal power in his body. Energy was crazily flowing into his body, and his strength was also rapidly increasing. 65,000 years, 70,000 years, 80,000 years. Finally, after reaching 80,000 years, Xiaoying's aura slowly stabilized. The higher one's strength, the harder it was to increase. After breaking through 100,000 years, there was still a bottleneck. The previous time, Lin Feng also broke through 2 soul rings, and Xiaoying directly increased his strength by 30,000 years. But this time, with a large amount of medicinal power in his body, he only increased his strength by 20,000 years. Originally, Lin Feng wanted Xiaoying to use the next opportunity to break through to 100,000 years. But now, let alone 100,000 years, it would be difficult for him to break through to 95,000 years. He would probably have to wait for Lin Feng's 9th soul ring to break through the barrier of a 100,000-year soul beast. Lin Feng didn't think too much about it. Very quickly, he sensed the soul skill he'd obtained after his breakthrough. First was his 3rd soul skill, Armored Demonic Bear Transformation. Previously, this soul skill's effect was to increase all of his attributes by 4 times and last for an hour. How should he describe this effect? As his 3rd soul skill, The fourfold increase in all his attributes was relatively strong. After all, the duration and soul power barrier were no different from Dai Mubai's third soul skill. But this time, after his soul ring broke through the 100,000-year mark, its duration became unlimited, and his soul power barrier became stronger. Most importantly, all of his attributes had increased by 8 times. When he unleashed his martial soul true body, the effects of his soul skills would be doubled. All of his attributes would be multiplied by 16, which was an extremely terrifying number. Although it was only double Lin Feng's current abilities, Lin Feng felt that he could fight against a rank 98 titled Soul Master, Doluo. And when he became a titled Soul Master, Doluo, perhaps only the 3 rank 99 Soul Masters on the entire continent would be able to fight against him. It was important to note that a rank 99 titled Soul Master, Doluo, was on a completely different level from other titled Soul Masters. People of this level were usually guardians of God positions, and their soul rings had been strengthened. Furthermore, they usually possessed powerful weapons. With the power of these weapons, they could even kill a rank 98 titled Soul Master, Doluo. Lin Feng thought that Doluo, who had just become a titled Soul Master, could already fight against such a powerful Soul Master. That was a manifestation of extreme confidence. His third soul ring had been doubled, and so had his fourth soul skill. The Fireweaver Monkey's fourth soul skill was originally a blazing wreath, an extremely powerful offensive soul skill. It was countless times stronger than Fatty's Phoenix Flames. Now, it had been strengthened into a blazing sea of fire. With a gentle wave of his hand, a blazing sea of fire would appear. This blazing sea of fire was extremely powerful. Lin Feng believed that even a soul master like Doluo wouldn't be able to last long. If a titled soul master like Doluo wasn't a defense-type soul master, he would also be injured. Through the control of his soul power, Lin Feng could gather the blazing sea of fire and throw it out like a bomb. In theory, if he had enough soul power and was able to control it, it was possible for him to blow up an entire city with a single move. However, this was all in theory. There was a limit to Lin Feng's control over his soul power. Furthermore, there was the increase in soul power required for soul skills. The further he progressed, the more soul power he required. By the time he reached this level, Lin Feng would probably have become a god. Name: Lin Feng Martial Soul. 1000 Trick Ruler, Immeasurable Flower Soul Power. Rank 82 plus, 1000 Trick Ruler Soul Ring. None Special Soul Skill. Avatar Immeasurable Flower Soul Ring. Snow Lotus 10,000 Year plus, Soul Skill. Life Bloom Ghosthead Stalking Spider 10,000 Year plus, Soul Skill. Shadow Bind Armored Bear 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill. Armored Demonic Bear Transformation Fireweaver Monkey 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill. Blazing Sea of Fire Nether Civet 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill. Nether Body Lightning Falcon 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill. Thunderbolt Force Wind Dragon 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill. Martial Soul True Body Chinkuan Blood Shadow Beast 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill. Teleport can also change position with Avatar Soul Bone. Wind Dragon Left Leg Bone 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill 1. Hathar Soul Skill 2. Wind Invisibility Chinkuan Blood Shadow Beast Skull 100 million Year plus, Soul Skill 1. Spatial Imprisonment Soul Skill 2. Blood Fiend Experience. Points. 4185412. Lin Feng had been suppressing his soul power all this time. After so long, he hadn't even increased a single rank, which was pretty good. Right now, he only had 2 soul rings that weren't 100,000-year soul ring. If he earned another 200 million experience points, he would have 800,000-year soul rings. After that, Lin Feng naturally wouldn't choose to break through to the titled Dolo realm. Instead, he would choose to give his second martial soul a set of soul rings. His goal was to increase his strength without changing his rank. That way, he could guarantee that he would gain experience points at a steady rate. One had to look at the long term when doing things. First, the higher his rank, the less experience points he would gain from fighting other soul masters. After he broke through to the titled Dolo realm, Dugubo and Ingluan would probably give him very little experience points. Even if he wanted to gain experience in the future, he would have to find stronger titled Doloa. And these strong titled Dolo realm didn't have many of them. This wasn't what he wanted to see. Therefore, his goal now was to equip the 1,000-trick ruler with 8 soul rings and then strengthen all of them to the 100,000-year level. At that time, with 1,600,000-year soul rings, his strength would probably be comparable to the 1,000 Dao sect. Right now, Lin Feng's goal was the 1,000 Dao sect. As long as someone was stronger than him, he would go to the martial spirit palace and play as the Pope. Cough cough. Being the Pope was just one way. Other identities, like the Great Consecrator, were also possible. Anyway, his main goal was to make those soul masters in the martial spirit palace willingly become his experience baby, and not to force them to submit through violence. Chapter 244. After all, if he didn't become a god, he would still be a titled Doloa. Lin Feng might be very strong, so strong that he could even defeat all of them. However, if he wanted to force those titled Doloa to become his experience babies, he wouldn't have the time to do anything other than suppress them all day long. After all, if there was oppression, there would be resistance. Countless television shows and movies told Lin Feng that the style of a villain wouldn't last long. The best way was to become friends with this group of experience babies, and it would be best if he could subdue them like Dugubo. While thinking of a follow-up plan, Lin Feng also stabilized his strength. Miao Xiaoying intimately leaned over and licked Lin Feng's face. "Stop licking. Let's go back to Heavendo City." With a smile, Lin Feng and Xiaoying flew back to Heavendo City. There had been too many things to do in the past few days, and he was a little tired. After breaking through his soul ring today, Lin Feng wanted to rest for a while. Of course, he had to make a trip back to Shrek Academy first and give Xueqinghe's soul stone to Tang San. Soon, Lin Feng returned to Heavendo City and went straight to Shrek Academy. He looked around and didn't find anyone in the meditation room or the dormitory. He asked Flanders and found out that the master had taken them to the forest behind the academy for class. Lin Feng took a few minutes to arrive in front of everyone. After greeting them, he waved at Tang San. "Xiao San, come here. I have something for you." "Okay." Tang San immediately ran over. "This is a 5th-grade soul stone that the Crown Prince left with me." Lin Feng placed the soul stone in Tang San's hand. "A 5th-grade soul stone?" Tang San hurriedly sensed it and then exclaimed in admiration, "The soul power inside is so pure. If I keep it by my side, I can speed up my meditation." "The Crown Prince's?" Tang San was stunned. "Yes." Lin Feng nodded and said, "In a day or two, he'll bring a soul bone over to exchange with you. When the time comes, you can just exchange with him." "A soul bone?" Tang San exclaimed, attracting everyone's attention. The main reason was that soul bones were simply too precious. Normally, only 10,000-year soul beasts would produce them. Furthermore, even 10 million-year soul beasts might not produce even one. This kind of thing was too precious. Tang San and the others had never seen it before. The Grand Master immediately walked over. "What soul bone?" He thought that she was talking about Tang San's external soul bone, so he was more concerned. Of course, finding a soul bone was also a very important matter. Did Feng go get a soul bone? Oscar and the others gathered around curiously. Lin Feng nodded and casually said, "In a few days, the Crown Prince will send over a 10,000-year soul bone. When the time comes, you can choose who it suits and use it." It really was a soul bone. Everyone was surprised. At the same time, they were also very shocked by Lin Feng's words. Lin Feng actually didn't want something as important as a soul bone. Did he mean that he was going to let them distribute it among themselves? Feng Gu, a soul bone is too precious. You should keep it yourself. Tang San immediately stuffed the soul stone into Lin Feng's hands. After the Grandmaster recovered from his shock, he said, "A soul bone is an extremely rare thing. It's different from a soul ring. It's not limited by the age of the soul beast. It mainly evolves according to the strength of the soul master. Even if it's the most ordinary soul bone, as long as you can obtain it when your strength is low, you can still obtain a very strong bonus when you become stronger in the future. Xiao Feng, you're so young now. The effect of using this soul bone will definitely be very good." The Grandmaster had stayed in the Martial Spirit Hall before, so he was very familiar with soul bones. Soul bones were too rare. The Martial Spirit Hall had soul masters who specialized in hunting for soul bones, but it was already very good if they could obtain even one soul bone in a year. Under such circumstances, the Grandmaster didn't think that everyone would be able to obtain a soul bone quickly, so he didn't explain it in detail. It was only because Tang San obtained an external soul bone that the Grandmaster decided to teach him a little. However, now that they had come into contact with a soul bone, he still had to explain it. "Yes, Feng Gu. I heard from my father that a soul bone doesn't absolutely have an additional soul skill, but it's extremely strong for a soul master's physical fitness. If you use it, you can even defeat a soul emperor with a single punch," Ning Rongrong said. When Lin Feng said that he was going to distribute the soul bone with them, they were really moved. This was a supreme treasure for a soul master, but Lin Feng didn't want to give it to them. They were really shocked, and now they were all trying to persuade Lin Feng to use it himself. Lin Feng calmly said, "It's just a 10,000-year soul bone. The Crown Prince told me that this is the kind that just entered the 10,000-year soul bone. Even if it can be strengthened when he becomes a titled Doluo, it'll only be equivalent to a 60,000-year soul bone at most. Furthermore, soul bones are also very suitable. It's best to take the soul bone from the soul beast you obtained the soul ring from. This way, you can maximize the effectiveness of the soul bone, just like the 8 spider legs on Xiaosan's back." "Feng Gu, that's called the 8 spider spears," Tang San whispered. Lin Feng glanced at him and ignored him. He continued, "If it's not compatible with your martial soul, the soul bone's effect won't be very strong." Lin Feng's meaning was very clear. This 10,000-year soul bone was trash, and he didn't care about it. They didn't know what to say about this. Lin Feng actually didn't care about something like a soul bone. "This," the master said, "the compatibility of the soul bone will be affected, but it's different from soul rings. It won't conflict with the martial soul. Even if it's not compatible, the effect won't exceed 20%. On the continent, the first thing a soul master would think of when they encountered a soul bone was to directly absorb it. After all, the enhancement brought by a soul bone was too great. It was simply an overwhelming advantage. If a soul elder's body was filled with 10,000-year soul bones, he could directly fight a soul emperor with just his physical fitness. This was the bonus brought by the soul bone. If a soul elder had 100,000-year soul bone, he could probably even touch a soul sage. A 20% difference is already very big. You guys can use it. I don't care about it, Lin Feng said bluntly. In fact, because of Lin Feng's martial soul's uniqueness, he didn't have the problem of compatibility with the soul bone. However, even if he could unleash 100% of his strength with this soul bone, it couldn't be compared to a soul bone that was compatible with his soul ring. This was because that soul bone could unleash 150% of his strength. Just like Tang San's 8 spider spear, it was an extremely special external soul bone that was related to his soul ring. This was the foundation for him to challenge those of a higher rank in the future. Lin Feng had a better choice. Why would he use this thing? Moreover, the 10,000-year soul bone was too low. He still needed a lot of experience points. Feng Go domineering. Ma Hongjun sighed. Lin Feng actually said that he didn't care about something as powerful as a soul bone. He didn't know what to say. Feng Go is too good to us. He gave us immortal herbs and soul bones. I want to repay him with my body. Oscar's words sent chills down everyone's spine. Chapter 245. In the end, under Lin Feng's insistence, Tang San accepted the soul stone. I'll get my own soul bones in the future. You guys can keep this. After giving away the soul stone, Lin Feng didn't stay any longer. After chatting for a while, he went to Heaven Do City to relax. Speaking of which, Lin Feng hadn't visited Heaven Do City before. As the capital of the Heaven Do Empire, everything here was very prosperous. In the original novel, Tang Hao's sister, Tang Yuehua, seemed to have opened an academy in the city that specialized in teaching noble etiquette. That place should be quite interesting. He could go and take a look when the time came. But since he was here to relax, there was no point in visiting. Lin Feng wanted to eat good food and watch some movies. Of course, there were no real movies in Dolua's world. The movies he was talking about here were actually dramas. Some opera houses and even some high-end restaurants had places where dramas were played. One could watch them for a single gold coin. Basically, they were reserved for soul masters and nobles. After all, 1 gold coin was too much for a normal person. Other than these movie places, there were also karaoke places, saunas, red light districts, and so on. Just as Lin Feng was having fun in the city, in the Martial Spirit Hall, Bibi Dong sat on the main seat in the Pontiff's palace. He wore a luxurious black robe with golden embroidery. He wore a 9-ringed purple crown and held a 2-meter-long papal staff embedded with countless gems. Her white skin and almost perfect face were enough to make one's imagination run wild. However, she exuded an invisible sense of nobility and holiness. She was so different that it made people want to bow down and worship her. At this moment, Bibi Dong was listening to a report from a white-robed bishop in the center of the hall. Your Holiness, there's news from Heaven Do City. Ingluan Dolua, who's been secretly overseeing things, has been trapped. We need to go and rescue him. As a white-robed bishop, he was not qualified to know about Xueqinghe. Not all titled battle pet warriors in the Martial Spirit Palace knew about Qianrenshu. Bibi Dong had only told a small number of people. Ingluan and Sol Dolua, who had helped Xueqinghe obtain a soul ring, had been nurtured by the Martial Soul Hall since they were young. They were all Bibi Dong's trusted aides, which was why they were qualified to come. Is there any other news? Bibi Dong's voice was incomparably cold, as if she was a high and mighty queen. No, the white-robed bishop said respectfully. Go down, call Yu Guan and Gui Mei over. Yes. The white-robed bishop hurriedly got up and left the Pope's palace. After he left, Bibi East's frown deepened. Not long ago, she had received a message from Ingluan, saying that Xueqinghe was secretly investigating something and had even used the Martial Soul Hall to plant a spy near Heaven Do City. After some information gathering, Bibi Dong found a name from Ingluan's message, and that was Thanos. A person that Ingluan had no information about, but he believed that the masked man who fought Dugubo in Heaven Do City was most likely Thanos. That was a very strong titled battle pet warrior who was even better at hiding his aura. When he was near the Heaven Do Academy's Education Committee's hall, he actually didn't notice Lin Feng, who was so close to him. However, Lin Feng didn't notice him either, so he estimated that Lin Feng was around rank 95. Considering all the information, Bibi Dong felt that Ingluan's sudden disappearance was a bit unusual. She wanted to go and take a look in person, but she had to be in charge of the Martial Soul City at the moment. Not many of the consecrators were convinced by her, and there were even several forces in the Martial Soul Hall that were competing with each other. She had to stay in the Martial Soul City and eliminate all the internal problems of the Martial Soul Hall. It was a very exhausting power struggle, but Bibi Dong had to persevere. Soon, Ghost Charm and Yu Guan arrived at the Pontiff's palace. Bibi Dong gave an order after telling them what had happened. Please go to Heaven Do City and investigate this Thanos. Rescue Yingluan while you're at it. Ghost Charm and Yu Guan had always been on Bibi Dong's side, and she had never mistreated them. She had always provided them with a lot of resources. Now that they were asked to do something, the two of them didn't waste any words. Yu Guan nodded and said, "With old Ghost and me, there definitely won't be a problem." Ghost Charm didn't say anything. He just chuckled creepily. "Go!" Bibi Dong waved his hand. "Also, help me find out how strong that girl is." No problem. The two of them had already left the palace and were rushing toward Heaven Do City as their voices echoed throughout the palace. The Martial Soul City was quite far from Heaven Do City. It would take a titled battle pet warrior half a day to fly there. However, flying consumed a lot of soul power. Even Dusty Heart's sword kinesis flight consumed a lot of soul power. Therefore, even a titled battle pet warrior like Doluo would mainly walk. He would only fly when he encountered some special terrain. This way, he could conserve soul power and maintain his combat ability. Otherwise, if he ran out of soul power and ran into an enemy, wouldn't he be courting death? Still, a titled battle pet warrior like Doluo could travel quite fast even on foot. At least, he was faster than a carriage. They would arrive at Heaven Do City in 3 days at most. As for why Lin Feng was traveling so fast? Why was he using soul skills so often? Was there a need to ask? How could a cheater compare to a normal player? His soul skills didn't consume a lot of soul power, and he could recover them quickly. He was almost like a perpetual motion machine. Ghost Doluo and Chrysanthemum Doluo were rushing toward Heaven Do City. Lin Feng had already returned to the Icefire Yin Yang well and continued to soak in the hot spring. He smiled happily as he watched his experience bar continue to rise. The next morning, at the Shrek Academy, the Crown Prince came to find them with a soul bone. Tang San and the others had been looking forward to it ever since they heard from Lin Feng that the Crown Prince would bring the soul bone over in the next few days. Today, the Crown Prince really came. Everyone's eyes were filled with anticipation. It had to be said that Xue Qinghe was really good at pretending to be the Crown Prince. His etiquette and behavior were impeccable. His strong affinity made everyone feel as if they were bathing in a spring breeze. After he took out the soul bone and exchanged it with Tang San, he smiled and discussed the use of the soul bone with everyone. After all, he had confirmed that he was going to cooperate with Thanos, so he also had to be on good terms with Lin Feng. Of course, he had to spare no effort to curry favor with Shrek's 7 monsters. This is a flaming bird's left arm bone. It's a little over 10,000 years old. I just got it not long ago. I don't know what it will do for Soul Masters, but I recommend Soul Masters with Fire-type martial souls to use it. Hearing this, everyone looked at Ma Hongjun. Chapter 246. The Flaming Bird's Left Arm Bone. Isn't this tailor-made for Fatty? It's a fire attribute soul bone. If Fatty uses it, it should give him the greatest boost. Fatty's luck is good. His strength will increase by a lot now. They had already discussed before that this soul bone would belong to whoever was suitable. Now it seemed that it was most suitable for Ma Hongjun. Tang San and Xiao Wu didn't have any objections, so everyone was happy for Ma Hongjun. Is this really for me? Isn't it a bit wasteful? Why don't third brother use it? Ma Hongjun said with some apprehension. After all, Lin Feng was originally given to Tang San, so it was still somewhat inappropriate for him to use it now. It's okay, this soul bone is more suitable for you. You will be able to unleash its greatest power when you use it. Furthermore, my martial soul is blue silver grass. If I use this, there might be a conflict, Tang San said. At this moment, the master at the side also said, That's right, this soul bone is best for you to use. The master was very clear about soul bones. Although Tang San's strength would increase by a lot if he used it, and the final effect would be very good, it was still slightly inferior to a suitable soul master like Ma Hongjun. Seeing that everyone agreed to him using this soul bone, Ma Hongjun was extremely touched. He originally thought that he had no fate with soul bones in his life. He didn't expect that he would obtain such a treasure as a soul elder. Not far away, Flanders, who was quietly hiding behind a tree, also sighed with emotion. He hadn't even used the soul bone himself, but he didn't expect his disciple to use it first. Thank you. Thank you everyone. We brothers don't need to say anything more. As long as you need me, Ma Hongjun, in the future, I will not shirk my duty. This kindness was too great. Including the immortal grass from before, Ma Hongjun's gratitude towards Lin Feng and his siblings was simply through the roof. Quickly absorb the soul bone. We are all very curious about the effects of the soul bone. Everyone urged. Upon hearing this, Ma Hongjun hurriedly reined in his emotions before picking up the soul bone with a serious look on his face. Absorbing a soul bone is much easier than absorbing a soul ring. For the left arm bone, just place it on your left hand and use your soul power to communicate with it. According to the master, it only took Ma Hongjun half a minute to completely absorb the left arm bone of the flaming bird. Yellow, yellow, purple. 3 soul rings appeared as Ma Hongjun's martial soul automatically attached itself to his body. His entire left arm immediately burned with raging flames. Because of the blazing text picture, the people nearby automatically distanced themselves from Ma Hongjun. This situation lasted for a few seconds before Ma Hongjun managed to control it and retracted it. However, the clothes on his left arm had been completely burned. What a powerful aura! It's comparable to that of a soul ancestor. Tang San muttered. Ning Rongrong had already asked, How was it? Fatty, what kind of upgrade did this soul bone give you? Ma Hongjun said excitedly, My attributes have at least doubled, and my soul skills have also increased by a small amount. The most important thing is that it also comes with an extremely powerful soul skill. I call it the Raging Flaming Hand. After using it, my left hand will directly turn into raging flames and I can throw fireballs. It also has an extremely powerful attack power. Even a defense-type soul ancestor would find it hard to block my attack. Fatty's third soul skill was the Phoenix Wing Strike. After using it, his hands would turn into a pair of flaming wings. He could fly by flapping them, and his attacks would be accompanied by raging flames. Finally, he could even throw this ball of energy to create an explosion. This was already an extremely powerful soul skill that could even threaten a soul ancestor. However, compared to the Raging Flaming Hand, it was still a level lower. His Raging Flaming Hand could probably threaten a soul king. So strong. It's stronger than both of my soul skills combined. Dai Mubai's mouth was as sour as a lemon. Fatty is now the main attacker of the team. Even I can't compare to you. Xiao Wu chuckled. The others also expressed their envy. This soul bone had greatly increased Ma Hongjun's strength. Among the 7 of them, his Raging Flaming Hand was probably ranked first in terms of attack power. Tang San's blue-silver cage from before shouldn't be able to stop him. The Grandmaster also laughed. When you guys break through again, the championship of this tournament will be in the bag. Congratulations in advance to Shrek Academy for clinching the championship. Xue Qinghe also congratulated them. Just like that, Xue Qinghe chatted for a while more before leaving. He saw how powerful Shrek's 7 monsters were. Although he wasn't sure of their exact strength, they shouldn't be inferior to Ma Hongjun. Befriending them now would be of great use in the future. Very quickly, 3 days passed. On this afternoon, Xueqinghe was cultivating in his room when a hoarse voice sounded in his ear. "How have you been, Your Highness?" As the voice sounded, two figures quietly appeared in front of Xueqinghe. "Not bad." Xueqinghe stood up and bowed slightly to the two of them. "Qinghe greets the two of you." Hearing this, Yu Guan and Gui Mei's expressions changed slightly, but they didn't say anything. They didn't exchange too much pleasantries. Yingluan was still captured, so they had to hurry. Therefore, Yu Guan asked Xueqinghe about the specific situation. 10 minutes later, the two of them left the room and went straight to the setting sun forest. In the same room, Xueqinghe smiled. Everything was under control. He was quite good at making up stories. Chapter 247. Yu Guan and Gui Mei had worked together for many years. When they joined forces, they were extremely powerful. Their thoughts were very simple. They would directly come over and fight head-on. So what if Thanos was rank 95? He was probably just lucky enough to catch Yingluan. In the hands of the two of them, it was not a problem at all. They could directly come over and kill him, then rescue Yingluan and bring him back. Therefore, they didn't try to hide and started searching in the forest. At the same time, Lin Feng paused for a moment inside the maze, then continued to build. His avatar appeared behind him. Xueqinghe's cooperation was quite reliable. He said he would get 2 titled battle pet warriors to fight Doluo in a week, and they came immediately. Their soul power undulations were similar to Dugubo's. If he guessed correctly, they should be the classic duo of Yu Guan and Ghost Charm. Both were rank 95 titled battle pet warriors. They worked well together and were very strong. Lin Feng didn't dare to underestimate them. 7th Soul Skill, Martial Soul True Body 3rd Soul Skill, Armored Demon Bear 5th Soul Skill, Nether Body 6th Soul Skill, Lightning Force. Lin Feng used all 4 of his status type soul skills at the same time. Then, he flew into the sky. Without any hesitation, Lin Feng's goal was to fight. As soon as he got close to the two of them, he directly smashed out with his staff. The club was almost 10 meters long. Like Lin Feng, it was in an illusory state. The moment it was about to hit the two, it turned from illusory to solid and burst out with great power. The two weren't standing together. Lin Feng's target was Ghost Charm. Yu Guan reminded him, "Old ghost behind you." Piece of cake. Ghost Charm disappeared and reappeared behind Lin Feng in an instant. Then, a black soul ring shone behind him. His hands turned into a pair of huge black claws. He clawed Lin Feng out of his illusory state. Ghost was a titled battle pet warrior of the agility family, Dolu. He was fast and had quick reflexes. Lin Feng had fallen into his trap. On the other side, Yu Guan directly used his martial soul true body, and a huge chrysanthemum appeared. Following that, the 8th soul ring was released, and the chrysanthemum flower suddenly swayed. Thousands of petals turned into streaks of light that flew towards Lin Feng. 8th soul skill, Boundless Flowing Light. This was an extremely powerful single-target soul skill. Even a defense-type titled battle pet warrior like Doluo would be injured if he took it head-on. If Lin Feng was hit, he would be seriously injured at the very least. Lin Feng did not panic. With a thought, a part of the 1,000-trick ruler turned into a stream of light and flew behind Yu Guan. In the next second, the stream of light turned into a human figure and swapped places with the body in the ghost's hand. This happened in an instant. No matter how fast Ghost and Yu Guan reacted, they did not expect Lin Feng to have such a soul skill. Taking advantage of this opening, Lin Feng directly punched out. Lightning surrounded his fist, and there was even a trace of fire. This punch was very powerful. Poor Yu Guan's chrysanthemum flower was smashed open by this punch. He was sent flying. If Ghost had not caught him, he would have been sent flying hundreds of meters away. Just as he fell into his arms, he spat out a mouthful of blood. In order to prevent himself from being pursued, Gue Mei immediately unleashed his martial soul true body. Bringing Yu Guan along, he turned into a dark shadow and spun around rapidly. He was so fast that Lin Feng could not lock onto them. What a fast martial soul! Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh. In the shadow, Yu Guan immediately drank a mouthful of recuperation medicine. After a while, he said, "This guy is very strong. His soul skill is very strange. I feel that it's not just rank 95. It might be rank 96. It's very strong, but it's still within an acceptable range. Later, you attract his attention, and I'll sneak attack." Ghost's hoarse voice sounded. "Okay." Yu Guan nodded and jumped out of the shadow. His martial soul swayed gently. Countless flower petals appeared in the surrounding space. They were beautiful and dangerous. Cold light flickered on them, and they instantly attacked Lin Feng. The reason why Yu Guan was hit earlier was because he did not understand Lin Feng's soul skill. At the same time, they had underestimated him. But now they were fully focused. As long as Lin Feng dared to use that move again, they would make him pay a painful price. Small matter. Facing these thousands of flower petals, Lin Feng did not panic. The thousand trickery ruler turned into a circular barrier and easily blocked them. Hurricane reaches the sky. Yu Guan's chrysanthemum flower continued to sway. The flower petals turned into a tornado and blew towards Lin Feng. This scene made Lin Feng recall the soul skill on his wind dragon left leg bone. Hussar! With that thought, he kicked out with his left leg. A formless energy condensed between his legs, and in the next second, a giant tornado dozens of meters in size appeared. It easily kicked Yu Guan's small tornado away. This is a soul bone soul skill. It's so strong. Yu Guan felt that the soul bone's power was beyond his imagination. Soul bones did not have soul skills 100% of the time. He and Ghost had soul bones in their bodies, and they were not weak. However, they felt that they were not at Lin Feng's level. The giant tornado's destructive power was extremely strong. Wherever it went, trees and the ground would be affected. Fortunately, Lin Feng was controlling it in real time. After seeing Yu Guan dodge, he directly dissipated it. At this time, Yu Guan had already started another attack. His soul power surged, and the chrysanthemum in his hand split into 3. Then, they pressed down on Lin Feng together. Under such circumstances, Lin Feng discovered that the surrounding space was being suppressed. Even if he wanted to teleport, he would have to spend some time. This move was extremely powerful. However, Lin Feng's expression did not change. His eyes suddenly turned blood-red, and he looked straight at Yu Guan. This was the second soul skill on the Qianquan Blood Shadow Beast's skull. Blood Fiend. This was a spiritual type soul skill. If one's strength was weak, or if one's spiritual power was weak, they would be instantly turned into a fool. Then, they would madly vent their soul power. Yu Guan's strength was not weak, and his spiritual power was also very strong. However, under the impact of Lin Feng's Blood Fiend, he could not help but be affected. He was momentarily stunned, and his soul skill lost its effect. If Yu Guan was alone at this moment, Lin Feng could teleport behind him and kill him with one slash of his blade. However, it was very clear that he was not alone. Just as Lin Feng activated Blood Fiend, Ghost Demon seized the opportunity and made his move. His 9th and 8th soul rings lit up at the same time. A black hole appeared above Lin Feng's head. Countless ghosts flew out and entangled towards Lin Feng. These ghosts contained huge soul power undulations. Lin Feng knew that if he was entangled, there would probably be an intense explosion. He wanted to dodge, but Ghost Demon suddenly appeared beside him. His entire body turned into a huge demonic shadow, and a claw grabbed towards Lin Feng. No matter how they looked at it, Lin Feng couldn't be Doluo, a titled battle pet warrior of the defense family. Unless Lin Feng was at rank 99, he couldn't have survived their joint attack. What was more frightening was that Lin Feng didn't seem to have suffered any serious injuries. Dugubo was just as surprised. He didn't think that Lin Feng would die, but he thought that he would be severely wounded. It turned out that Lin Feng was only slightly wounded. Now, it's my turn to fight back. Lin Feng's life force quietly emerged and enveloped him, restoring him to his peak state. One thing that surprised Lin Feng was that the ghost martial spirit's soul power not only restrained his nether body, but also his life force. He was able to recover quickly but at twice the normal speed. That was something that Lin Feng was very concerned about. If he were in an environment full of soul power, his life force would be weakened. But soon, Lin Feng didn't think about that. He was still in the middle of the battle. When he was fully recovered, Lin Feng teleported in front of the two. Space confinement activate. For a moment, the two couldn't move. They tried to break free immediately, but they still needed time. However, the ghost martial spirit was very special. It turned into a black shadow and was immune to the space confinement. But he had paid a huge price to shrink his martial spirit true body. Of course, he didn't come out to attack Lin Feng. When Lin Feng survived their joint attack, they knew that they couldn't deal with him. This masked man named Thanos was a monster. His martial spirit was too powerful. It was definitely a super powerful mutated martial spirit, even more powerful than the ghost martial spirit. At the moment, the ghost martial spirit only had one thing in mind, which was to run away. Old Ghost. Martial Spirit Fusion Skill. Yu Guan also realized this and quickly shouted. The ghost martial spirit instantly wrapped around Yu Guan's body, and the two of them emitted an extremely powerful soul power fluctuation. Martial Spirit Fusion Skill. Polar Static Domain. The space confinement was instantly dispersed by this soul power. Lin Feng's charging momentum was instantly stopped, and he couldn't move. This feeling was very similar to Dugubo's 8th soul skill, and even to Lin Feng's space confinement. They were both control-type soul skills. However, this was the martial spirit fusion skill of Yu Guan and the ghost martial spirit. It was too powerful. Lin Feng was strong, but in front of this kind of soul power, he couldn't break free in a short period of time. He couldn't teleport either. His soul power seemed to be frozen. However, the soul skills that he had released earlier were still there, especially the first soul skill, Life Bloom. A rich life force surrounded Lin Feng. Seeing this, the ghost martial spirit instantly left with Yu Guan. It was impossible to kill Lin Feng. This guy's defense was too strong, and he even had such an amazing recovery ability. Moreover, they had used their big moves in succession, so they didn't have much soul power left. Under such circumstances, running away was the wisest choice. After the two of them left, the fusion skill seemed to have lost its support. After only a second, Lin Feng broke free. These two guys can actually use a martial spirit fusion skill? To be honest, this was something that Lin Feng never expected. He had already forgotten the details of the original story about the titled Doluo of the Martial Spirit Hall. He knew about Yu Guan and the ghost martial spirits' martial souls and ranks, but he had forgotten that they could use a martial spirit fusion skill. Their control was too strong, and they even sealed space. It was simply unbreakable. A martial spirit fusion skill was a fusion of a soul master's soul power and released it in multiples. If two rank 95 titled Doluo used a martial spirit fusion skill together, it would probably be broken by a rank 99 soul master. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ding! After a thrilling battle, the host defeated the rank 95 titled Doluo Yu Guan and the rank 95 titled Doluo Ghost Martial Spirit. Battle experience increase. Experience plus 741554682. Chapter 249. The two of them gave him a total of more than 70 million experience points. This battle was really worth it. However, Lin Feng also knew that his shortcomings were too obvious. That was, his combat level was too low. It was time to raise his combat level. Fighting with an experienced baby, other than giving him experience, he couldn't get anything else. In the battle just now, Yu Guan's martial soul was relatively normal, but Gue Mei was completely different. Not only did his martial soul restrain his soul skills, but his attack rhythm and timing were also better than his. In fact, from Soul Sage onwards, apart from pure support-type Soul Masters, the difference in strength between other Soul Masters was mainly reflected in martial souls, soul rings, and soul bones. Soul rings and soul bones aside, Lin Feng felt that he was still very strong, mainly because of his martial soul. Lin Feng had seen too few martial souls. The academy mainly taught about soul beasts, but martial souls were only taught in general. There were no details at all. In the library, he couldn't find any books on this. At most, there were only books that had a better understanding of well-known martial souls. As for Master, he didn't know much about martial souls. Some of his knowledge about martial souls was based on soul beasts. For example, Gue Dolua's martial soul was definitely a variant. It was the first time Lin Feng had seen such a type of martial soul. It restrained him too much. It seemed that he needed to pick up the few aliases in the Great Soul Arena again and see more different martial souls to understand their characteristic. The Great Soul Arena in Heaven Do City was considered the most luxurious Great Soul Arena in the entire Heaven Do Empire. There were many Soul Masters fighting here every day, and the quality of the Soul Masters couldn't be compared to other places. For example, in Soto City, the most Soul Masters were actually Soul Grandmasters and Soul Elders. There weren't many Soul Masters above Soul Ancestor. Sometimes it would take half a day to match. But in Heaven Do City, there were many Soul Grandmasters and Soul Elders, but there were also many Soul Masters above Soul Ancestor. One could even see a battle between Soul Sages. One had to know that Soul Sages were the tasks of the patriarchs in some small clans. In large clans, Soul Sages were usually elders. Only a super organization like the Martial Spirit Hall would have more Soul Sages than the other organizations. Such a rare Soul Master would only appear once every half a year in Heaven Do City. A Soul Emperor could find an opponent after a few days, but a Soul King could probably find an opponent in 1 or 2 hours. A Soul Ancestor was a perfect rank. Just like the Soul Exalts in the other Soul dueling arenas, it would be easy to find an opponent in just a few minutes. Lin Feng was prepared to fight as a Soul Ancestor. He also needed to practice his multitasking ability. Soaking in the hot spring for a day, and eating immortal herbs for a day would only give him about 4 to 5 million experience. This efficiency was too low. Lin Feng didn't like it. That's right, he was getting carried away. In the past, he felt that 1 million experience points a day was already a lot. Now that his horizons had been broadened, a few million wasn't much. Gue Mei and Yu Guan ran away. They had expended a lot of soul power and weren't at their peak. They found a small town near the setting sun forest and hid there to recover their soul power. A day later, the two of them rushed to Heaven Do City. This Thanos was too strong. He might be a super expert above rank 97. The two of them couldn't complete the mission. They had to ask the Pope, should they send more people or give up on Yingluan? At the same time, they had to ask for Xueqinghe's opinion. Actually, the most important thing was that the Martial Soul Hall still didn't know where Thanos came from. He was too mysterious. They really didn't know anything. Otherwise, they would have been able to respond accordingly. Soon, the two of them found Xueqinghe in a room. Elders, has Elder Yingluan been rescued? Xueqinghe asked with a nervous expression. Your Highness, that Thanos is too strong. He might be above rank 97. and his martial soul is very strong. It might be a top-grade mutated martial soul. The two of us didn't manage to rescue Yingluan this time. Gui Mei didn't like to speak in long sentences, so it was usually Yu Guan who spoke. How is Elder Yingluan now? Shui Qinghe had a concerned expression,